SoFloRadio.com and SoFloTelevision.com. A&E presents 1 Minute Biography with your host, Jack Perkins.
George Rodriguez. He was born in 1925. He was a happy child and raised by immigrant parents in Cuba who died when he was at the tender age of 47. He enjoyed a successful career and he was about to meet the love of his life. Everything seemed to be going his way, but little did he know, things would take a turn for the worse. 1941. Pearl Harbor is attacked, and America goes to war. Jorge enjoyed marginal success in the 1960s and 70s as a top 40 disc jockey in Yenamsville, North Dakota, and wound up sub-hosting for popular talk show host Neil Rogers, and then he died. You know, it's been said that, well, they said something. Join us tomorrow night when Biography looks at the life of Larry Hovis.
Well, Sabado night around 9:00, I'll tell you where I'm gonna go. Cruising in my 80 Chevy lowrider truck to join the other Julios. I have cages in the back where I carry my cocks. You can hear 'em cock-a-doodle-doo. And if I kill one or kill them all depends on if I win or lose.
Sabado night at the cockfights. Who cares what gringos may be?
When you're subliterate in Latin, then barbaric is the way to be. Well, there's Jorge and Rolando and Julio, whose cocks look pretty good. In the arena you can see the pecorino rolls growing stiff as a block of wood. We use cockfighting as an alibi to cover what we do inside. Behind the curtain, all the macho guys are giving a wink to Hispanic brown eyes.
Sabado night at the cockfights. Who cares what gringos may be?
When you're subliterate in Latin, then barbaric is the way to be.
Whoa! Sabado night at the cockfights. Who cares what gringos may be?
When you're subliterate in Latin, then barbaric is the way to be.
Whoa! Sabado
Well, we got a good sense of humor, you know, the Cubans. Very much like the Jews. A lot of similarities.
Great song.
That's going to be a theme. I don't know if we're going to get to the original agenda towards the end of the show or not, because there were, you know, current events. Yeah, absolutely switch that shot. There were current events lately, and you picked up on them that just need to be addressed. And Jeff, I know if you're tuning in, I'm going to save the train information for later. I told Mark before the show. I'm getting, you know, we've been talking about this train thing for a long time. I have train news, but I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to get into that because my rabbi is coming today. That's why I'm wearing the yarmulke. I haven't done the official conversion yet, but everybody that knows me knows that I've been talking about converting for years and just making it more official than usual. And Mark, you did some research. Welcome. Mark's producing my show today, and it's going to be baptism with fire because we're doing a lot of, it's going to be sloppy and they're going to be doing a lot of tech talk. There's going to be a lot of direction going on in your direction, you know, as you have to divide your attention between that and us. But that looks good. We're recording, you see the levels, the two red lights, the levels bouncing up and down. Everything's great. You can go on to, you know, making sure that we're broadcasting and recording with Sam would be a good idea now, just to rest yourself. I know you just checked it a couple minutes ago, but it's Murphy. There you go. Levels bouncing up and down. We're on the air. Welcome to the show. I didn't have time to do a Facebook posting. There's just never enough time before the show.
I did about 7 of them.
Excellent. Well, I need to
and
go.
Shalom,
I'm going to go on.
Shalom.
Thank you. I hope you have a Ziz and Shabbos. It's starting at sundown tonight.
Yes. And what time is sundown tonight?
I don't know. It's
Like
winter. I'm
5:18?
thinking 5-ish or something like that. You know.
But have you noticed that it's?
I'm not going to be an
6:15?
Orthodox Jew because I mean that's just too much. That's too much. You know, I'm going to schlep on Shabbos. I'm sorry. Even outside the boundaries of the Eruv, I'm going to schlep on Shabbos.
Well, Hollywood
I think
totally
they should
Eros.
designate the entire city of Hollywood an Eros.
I think
I'm gonna when my rabbi comes in, I'm
You'll
going
have
to.
to ask.
No, there's sections of Sterling. I can see it right there. On Saturday. I call that the Hat Parade. If you drive up and down Sterling anytime on Saturday, you can see the Hat Parade. I want one of those big ass fedoras. Like that's what I want for my conversion present. Now, after I convert, can I have a bar mitzvah since I never had one?
Well,
I think that would be
again,
appropriate.
I think you should.
I think I should.
First, you've got to have the bris.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then,
just a man. I got
then-
spilkies at the thought of having the bris.
Since
there.
you're not a firstborn, you can't have the pigeon eye.
Mark, to my surprise and to your credit, you did some research and you discovered what many people don't know, and that is the Jewish history of the Rodriguez bloodline.
Yes.
That the Rodriguezes have had Jewish in their family tree and have always been very sympathetic to the Jews. And I don't know, have you ever seen the movie El Cid with Charlton Heston? Remember I was going on and on about Charlton Heston the
Yes.
other day? Well, he portrayed in a major Hollywood film, one of my ancestors, the original ancestor of name, and that is El Cid.
El Cid.
Did you ever see that movie? Your microphone
I
could be a
had-
little bit louder.
I have.
It's
seen
just
that.
a little bit more juice because I tend to drive my mic. That's mine. And that's
Yes, this is yours.
No, yeah, you can turn those a little bit down. It's nuance. It's a theory and practice. Turn me down a little bit too, because I'm about to get a little bit animated when I talk about El Cid. El Cid, who's real, a little bit more. Give me a little bit more juice in that. A little bit more. Hello, hello, hello. There, that sounds good. That feels good.
I'm glad that you like that.
El Cid, El Cid was his nickname. It's an Arabic word that means the Lord. Because depending on, he got a lot of, he was mostly a Muslim fighter, but then he had a conflict, a rift, if you will, with King Philip. So he was actually helping the Muslims for a little while because he got dissed by King Philip until King Philip and him amended their fences. Then he went back to fighting the Muslims on behalf of King Philip. But the Muslims respected him and feared him and called him the Lord. You remember the movie where they shot him with the arrow, but they strapped his ass to the horse and he led the troops even after dead. And so the
Yes.
Muslims thought that he wasn't able to be killed and the enemy was routed and everything. So that gives you a little bit of insight into the history of Spain and the problems that they've had with the Muslims. The original big jihad that the Muslims waged, swept over Byzantium, which was the Eastern Roman Empire, and all the way across northern Africa, and then eventually up into Spain, where they dominated for about 500 years. Wow. Okay, even though they were the official rulers of the entire Iberian Peninsula, the further south you went, the more Arabic the influence was. And you can see as you travel through Spain, both in architecture, dialect, and complexion of the peoples. You can see that the further north you go, the more European, and also because there was another thing, it wasn't just Muslims coming up from the south, but there were Goths, Visigoths, Vandals, Suevs, and other Germanic tribes coming in from the north. So there was a back and forth of ethnicity going on in Spain for a very long time. Added to already the original backdrop of native Gauls, Celtic peoples. Those are the original people. That's my ethnic bloodline there. The original Spanish natives were Gauls with lime in their hair and kilts.
I thought Celtics were from like England or something.
Well, all of it was. Those are the original indigenous peoples of Iberia, Spain, France, and the British Isles were collectively known as Gauls, as Celts, and just different tribes therein. But they had commonality in that they all wore kilts, they all used bagpipes, they all put lime in their hair and blue. It was called a woad, the stone that turned their faces blue. That culture. And then the Romans came and conquered Iberia, England for a while, France, and then Latin became the official language of those areas, and the Spanish, French, and Italian evolved from Latin, which gets me. One of these days we're going to do a religious show because one of the things that it's called cognitive dissonance when you're forced to believe two things that are obviously the opposite of each other. That's the word for it.
Like love and hate?
Something like that. Like I like to use obvious examples like the sunrise. For example, the sun rises in the east, and we can all see it, right?
That is true.
And if you encounter someone that says the sun rises in the west, and they feel very strongly about that, you would regard that person as what?
An idiot?
Or
Uninformed.
or crazy.
Well,
Crazy. Because if they're an idiot and they're uninformed, you can say, look, here's a compass and a clock. Okay? It's the morning now. The sun is rising. It's coming up. And here's a compass pointing east. And this person says to you, well, I think that that's a joke compass, a trick compass, a compass that you had manufactured for this occasion, or a compass that was created by Satan that you're using to fool me from the truth, because I have a book that says that the sun rises in the west, and that book is true based on the person that gave it to me said it was true.
it's like
Right.
being on the
So
internet.
you can't, right. So you can't really, when someone will not look at the obvious fact that you're pointing out and continues to hold on to a belief system based on a story that they read, that's, I do not continue a conversation with that person, but once upon a time, I was one of those kinds of people. There were things that I knew to be facts. For example, I knew, because I was always very interested in history, including my own history, the history of my family, the history of my people. It didn't stop there. I had such a good time researching the history of my own family and my own people that it started me researching the history of other people. Because if my people had an interesting story, and of course, I was a young person and I was driven by my ego. I wanted to know the history of the sequence of events that led up to me being me, where I am, and what's going on. But other people have really exciting, interesting stories too. And if you're raised as a Christian in America, you know the Jewish story. We're raised. You understand that we go to special Sunday school classes where they teach us your story.
Yes.
And my people have been influenced and inspired by the story of your people for thousands of years. My people owe a lot to your people, because we've accomplished a lot with the stories written by your people,
So
my people.
your people, are you referring to
The natives
Christians?
the natives of the Iberian Peninsula.
Ah, okay. And for those that are not familiar with the Iberian Peninsula, would you briefly explain
we call it Spain and Portugal now.
Right.
Right. The Iberian Peninsula, which was named Hispania by the Romans, the lands of the Hispanoids. By the way, if you want a real quick history of Portugal, because Spain went through a lot of changes. When Spain finally, got done with all its civil wars and everything, because Spain expelled the Muslims. It took 500 years to expel the Muslims. And when they finished that, they tried to expel. Well, actually, before that, Spain's good at trying to expel things from their country. They tried to expel the assholes. So they routed the assholes and they drove them to the west coast of Spain with the intention of driving them into the sea and drowning them all of the Spanish assholes. But they made such a stand there at the coast that the Spaniards decided to just not drive them into the ocean, but draw a border there instead, and called that region Portugal.
And give them their own language.
And they decided because they were assholes, they decided that they were going to speak shitty Spanish from now on and called it Portuguese. The Portuguese.
And they're all assholes.
They are all assholes, the Portuguese.
Does that make all the Brazilians cousins to the assholes?
No, because that's different, because we have New World people. For example, is there a difference between an American and an Englishman? Is there a difference?
There is.
A cultural difference.
Yes.
Sure. Well, thus, likewise.
Okay.
The Brazilians are not necessarily assholes just because they are Portuguese in origin. We're a New World people now.
Okay.
You and I.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Even though our people originated on the other side of the ocean. We came over here because a lot of back and forth. My people discovered Florida, named it, landed on it, planted flags on it, and immediately started doing what my people do so well that they earned the nickname conquistador, which means conqueror. And what my people did is they went to places where brown people lived, killed them, and took their stuff. Okay? On a grand scale over here in this new world. You understand that is the history of this area.
Brown or red?
Whatever, not white.
Not
white. It was a very simple. Correct. It was a very simple policy and standard that my ancestors employed. They would land on a place, and if the people that lived there weren't white, they weren't regarded as humans, and we just killed them and took their stuff.
So that gives us
enslaved them.
That gives us a chance to talk about the future, because as you went
right.
further north, did the red people actually diminish and actually become descendants of the Norwegians.
No.
No?
No.
They were read up in England, in New England at the time also?
Well, the English, not your people.
No,
the
not
English,
my
not your people.
Right.
The English decided to, after 100 years of raping and pillaging and exploiting the New World, the English and the Dutch and the French decided they wanted in on that too. They kept watching the Spanish galleons, unload gold and teak wood and spices and tobacco and everything. And they started to get jealous of the bounty that Spain was raping and raking in from their activity in the New World, that they decided that they wanted some of that action. And that's when they started sending people over here. But because I got some big news for Mark, and we're going all over the place over here. But just to take you through a little bit of the history of my people, specifically the Rodriguezes and the people that preceded the Rodriguezes, that became the Rodriguezes. Because I'm glad you saw the movie El Cid. I've seen it. I can't tell you how many times that I saw. El Cid's name was Rodrigo Ruy Diaz de Vivar. That was his name. El Cid means the Lord. That was his nickname.
Right.
All right. Rodrigo had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son named Diego. Now, in case you don't know about the Spanish naming system, in English, they attach S-O-N on the end of the name. Son of John is Johnson, right?
Yeah.
You understand that that's a mechanism there. Well, in Spanish, we use U-E-Z, meaning son of.
Ah, I did not know that.
Dominguez is son of Domingo.
I did not know that.
Rodriguez is son of Rodrigo. The very first Rodriguez was El Cid's son, Diego Rodriguez.
Okay.
El Cid died in combat, as you know, and you saw the movie and the story. Diego picked up where his father left off and continued his father's work and married and had children of his own. And then what happened to Diego? Also died in combat. Bravely, knight in shining armor, horse, lance, all that stuff, all that European chivalry stuff that you see. But he started the surname. He was the first one with the Rodriguez surname, and all of the Rodriguezes claim ancestry from him. But, if you trace history, there's no reason to disbelieve that. That is the origin of my family's name.
Interesting.
And where did my family come from, and where did my family hail? Up until they started coming over to the New World. My father's side is from Galicia, which is the northwestern coast of Spain, otherwise known as Galicia is Spanish for land of the Gauls, meaning the Celts, the Irish people. Galicia is the Spanish equivalent of Wales, the Welsh. It has its own dialect, which is more similar to Gaelic than to Spanish. So the Irish of Spain are the Galicians, my father's side of the family. Right next to it on the Spanish coast are the Asturians, Asturia, which are more Germanic, more Gothic, Visigothic in origin and ethnicity. And right next to them are the Basques, who consider themselves not Spaniards at all, and they're always, bombing things, the Basque separatists, and you hear about that news every once in a while. You're an older fellow, so every once in a while you'll get a headline, Basque separatists bomb this or everything, because they also come from they're Germanic in origin and consider themselves a separate people from Spanish at large. But when the Muslims took over Spain, there was one region that never swore allegiance, never succumbed, and never flew the flag. Just the Muslims said, well, we own you, we're just not going to bother to go up there and enforce our will. They were more concerned with things further south. You understand that Spain's a big place. So the further south you went, the more Muslim influence you had, Muslim and Arabic influence you had, the Moors. And the further north you went, the less Muslim influence and the more Celtic, Germanic, European and original Latin influence you had. And of course they were Catholics, as you know. So for 500 years it was the Catholics and the Muslims fighting each other in Spain. Now the Asturians, my mother's side of the family, they never succumbed, they never fell, and the reconquest of Spain started with them. You could look it up. I think his name was Alfonso, King Alphonse or something like that. That was the one that started routing the Muslims back in the other direction. He was the king that collected all of those who were willing and able and started fighting the Muslims and fighting them back. And the process took 500 years, but eventually in 1492, Granada, the last Muslim stronghold, fell in Spain, and the Muslims were expelled from Spain. Now, unfortunately and sadly, and I really apologize for this, I have a lot of Spanish guilt about this, in order to do that, in order to consolidate the people and get a uniform mentality going. And this is the dark side of this was the Inquisition. The Catholic Church convinced everyone that Spain should only belong to Catholic people. All right. And so Jews got caught up in that, even though it's like the Jews are like, hey, we hate the Muslims too. And you're like, well, yeah, but we're going to kill everyone that isn't a Catholic right now these days. So it wasn't a good time for the Jews in Spain either, or anybody who wasn't a Catholic, even if you were Protestant. Not a good time. Not a good time for anybody that wasn't a Catholic in those days. They were very focused. They were very fanatical. It was they were victims of a jihad, and they countered with a jihad of their own. The people that were fighting both sides really believed that God was on their side, and it was a religious war on both sides. Okay, you're coming over here and conquering Spain in the name of your God. Well, we are going to unconquer Spain in the name of our God, Jesus. You understand? And the Jews, you're not down with Jesus, so sorry. We're not coming at you specifically. It's very simple for 500 years. You're Catholic, a good Catholic. Okay, you're cool. If you're not, it's not a good atmosphere.
So recently, I was reading an article by a college professor. I believe he was out of Houston. I'll have to double check my facts. But during this period of time, he's writing that many people of Jewish faith, just to get along and not leave, became Catholics.
Correct. Wink, wink. Correct. Sure. Like a lot of people, because the Muslims were also making people an offer that you can't refuse. Convert to Islam or we'll kill you. Like, okay. I mean, Spain became Christian the same way. The Romans came and said, convert to Christianity or we'll kill you. Okay. We're descended from the people who converted. The people that didn't convert were killed. Didn't have any children. I'm going to add your post to the timeline today while I'm talking, while I'm multitasking over here. Meanwhile, back to the history of my people. Fast forward, 1492. I already told you this before the show. Columbus sails the ocean blue in the same year that Grenada falls. And Spain realizes that there's a whole new world that they can conquer with all of these armies that they don't really need this vast army anymore. Understand, Spain had no intention of chasing the Muslims into northern Africa. Fuck northern Africa. We just want the Iberian Peninsula for ourselves. We're going to go back to dealing with the Portuguese maybe. But then right at the same time, Columbus comes back and says, we found like a continent, actually two, but, that, and by the way, remember those dark-skinned people that we just got done kicking out of Spain? We found a whole continent full of brown-skinned people, and they're so low-tech. They are so low-tech. I mean, the Muslims had steel and horses and everything. They were not low-tech. They invented the saddle, the curved blade. They had innovative warfare, mathematics. They could read. They had some technology. The Muslims, but these people, Columbus coming back, it's like, look at these people. Like they barely have clothes. Their most fancy tool is the stick. They're going to be a pushover. I suggest that we take the armies that you're about to disband, load them onto galleons, go over there, kill them all, and take their shit.
Really?
Yeah. And Ferdinand and Isabella said, of course we're going to do that. We'd be idiots not to.
What kind of shit did they have?
The New World?
Yeah.
America?
Yeah.
What kind of shit did they have? You live here.
Well,
specifically,
I'm just saying.
Here. I mean, and originally it was all New Spain. All North, Central, and South America was dubbed New Spain.
Really?
Of course, by Columbus. And the capital of New Spain was established eventually in Havana because of its central location, its deep natural harbor, and the colonies that radiated around Havana became tributaries to Havana. All of the European everything, the first of everything, was built in Havana. The first school, the first college, libraries, hospitals, and things like that. As the ruling class of Europe that was sent to the New World to establish Spain's new empire over here, we're going to do this from the central point of Havana. And all of the colonies radiating around Havana are, it's not like we don't want them to develop all of these other things, but their primary function is to gather resources, ship them to Havana, where they will be processed, packed up, and shipped off into the galleons, back to Europe. Eventually, England would get jealous and start sending privateers like Francis Drake to loot the stuff. But St. Augustine, you might know. This brings us back to the history of my people. I don't know if you've ever visited St. Augustine. I took a trip there like a year and a half or two to go to the Gentlemen of the Road tour. a working weekend, spent the weekend up there. Went back to the Castillo de San Marco. Have you been to St. Augustine?
St. Augustine, Florida?
Florida, sure.
Of course.
Yeah, love that. The first time I went there, it made me beam with pride to hear our tour guide, our redneck tour guide, old cracker, a redneck tour guide, explain with pride the undefeated nature of the Castillo as he's giving us a tour through the Castillo. I heard from him that the architect came from Havana because Havana was the capital. Havana was where all the modern amenities were, and all of the educated European people, they lived there. And so Spain sent an architect who was working in Havana, designing castles and fortifications in Havana, to go to St. Augustine to build the Castillo to defend St. Augustine, the Castillo de San Marco, which is undefeated, the St. Augustine colony that never fell militarily despite attacks by Francis Drake, Oglethorpe, the English colonists who founded Georgia, French. A lot of people tried to take St. Augustine by force. If you ever took the tour, these references are all over the place. St. Augustine, which was colonized and established in 1565, earlier than Plymouth Rock, earlier than Jamestown. It's the first American city. It's the first European city in America. St. Augustine, as you know.
St. Augustine, Florida.
Sure,
yes,
founded by my people, specifically Rodriguez's, because the colonists from St. Augustine came from the northern coast of Spain, Galicia, and Astoria. And in case you don't know, there's a house there called the Casa Rodriguez, which was built in 1762 by a Spanish soldier who had the last name Rodriguez. And it's there today, and it's got a big plaque. It's a National Historical Monument. I got a picture of me standing out in front of it with the Spanish flag hanging over my head. You want to see it?
Well,
And I got a picture of the plaque.
Yeah.
Because my people,
Your people.
the Rodriguezes,
Right. So
were here before your people ever heard of the New World. But that's okay because it's all cool now because your people have given my people so much, and I'm about to go into that, like very inspirational stuff. Because again, my people were Catholic. Okay. And you can't be Catholic without knowing Jewish history and being influenced by it, or at least the Old Testament of the Bible, whether or not you regard that as a historical document or mythology, because the people argue about that to this day, or a combination. I don't know how you regard the Old Testament. I don't know if you believe that once upon a time the creator of the universe approached an ancient Babylonian by the name of Abram and said, if you cut off the end of your penis, I will give you real estate. I don't know if you believe that story is true, okay? But certainly my people did in the day,
right,
and they were very inspired by that, okay? They were also inspired by the story where God told Joshua to kill everyone that doesn't worship the same God as him, and then he did so in the land of Canaan, which we now call Palestine/Israel. My people rationalized their murder, if you want to call it that. They didn't call it that. Their liberation, because they were animals.
Your people.
No, my people regarded non-white people as animals.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And
heathens.
Sure, heathens. They had no souls because they had brown skin. It wasn't until St. Bartolome de las Casas, the bishop of Cuba at the time, made a petition to the Pope to reclassify the peoples of colors as people, as opposed to animals. And then, of course, slavery ended in the colonies, and that had a chain reaction that affected Florida history. That particular redesignation, in case you don't know. But up until that time, the rationale, if someone in Spain would say, did anyone ever consider that it might not be right to kill the brown-skinned people and take their stuff? If anyone ever would have said that in the time, somebody would have said, well, no, of course it's moral. They're just beasts. They have a different skin color. And by the way, aren't you a Catholic? Yeah. Well, don't you remember the Old Testament story where Joshua God didn't tell Joshua that he could. He told Joshua that he had to. It's his duty to kill these people. Why? What was the rationale? Why did these people need to die? According to the Bible, do you remember the Joshua story? It's the book of Joshua. It's right there. It starts right at the beginning.
I'm not a student of the Bible,
because they worship a different god. They worship Baal.
Okay,
that's it. That's all they did. I mean, the very first city that Joshua conquered was Jericho. Blew the horn, the walls came tumbling down. Certainly you remember that story. Jericho, archaeologically speaking, the oldest city the oldest city on the planet. The oldest human settlement is Jericho. The people that were encountered by your ancestors were arguably the founders of the city who had been in that spot since the Stone Age. But they worshipped a different God. They didn't worship Yahweh. And so Yahweh told Joshua, you got to kill them all and everyone in the land. At the end of the book of Joshua, in case you don't know, Joshua is old and can't do warfare anymore. What does God say to Joshua? You're not done. There's still some of these people left alive. You're not finished. You got to kill them all. I told you to kill them all. And Joshua's like, oi, dude, I've been doing this my whole life. I can't get on a horse anymore. I'm like lame over here. But that's not the only book in the Bible where, people are killed because they worship a different God than Yahweh. It's just, Moses took part in a lot of conquests. Joshua took over for Moses. Joshua and Moses together genocided 31 city-states, if you count count the Bible stories. 31 city-states. A city-state is like a major city then surrounded by villages and farmlands and townships.
Like Israel.
Sure, but I mean, in medieval times, it was the same structure like in Europe. You had one central place, a kingdom, basically. A city-state would be regarded as a kingdom, okay?
Sure.
You will. So 31 kingdoms were eradicated by the children of Israel. And why? I already told you. They worshipped a God other than Yahweh. Okay? That's why Yahweh told them. They worship some other God, not me. So it's your duty to kill them. My people were very inspired by that story. Very inspired. And really, for generations to come, they would use those scriptures that they believed in very literally as a rationale for killing people that worshipped a different God. Okay. And of course, the Inquisitors, there's a dark side of that too. The Inquisitors, they were torturing people to death, but it's for their own good. It's for their own good. Yeah, don't worry about a break. We might never get to it because I don't know if somebody was knocking on the door. What? It's possible. I'm just gonna see if the door is locked. 'Cause sometimes it locks. Right?
Yeah. While you're doing that, it's amazing the amount of information that George has accumulated in his 50 years. He is just such a wealth of information. Knowing this and the Bible, his Bible studies. Wow,
oh, it's very serious. Thank you.
He should be a clergyman.
Well, I would, but I have a moral dilemma with being a clergyman.
You don't like to play with little boys.
Well, that too. Now that's if I wanted to be a Catholic clergyman.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe that the profession of sharing God's message with people for money is moral. I don't believe in the morality of that. Okay, I believe that one's
your own church.
I know that, but I don't believe. Here's what I don't believe. There's any such thing as an honest clergyman.
Well, I can. Buy
okay,
that.
See, because God told me that He doesn't use messengers.
Right.
Right.
Well, God talks to you frequently.
Sure, as often as I want.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like right now, if I want, I don't use the God phone anymore. That's just a prop, of course, but. If because here's the thing, I was asked by someone who is a born again Christian, God talks to you, but He doesn't talk to me.
Right.
I said, well, I'll tell you why God doesn't talk to you. Okay, I'm going to pretend that you're the born again Christian.
Okay.
I said,
do this.
if God appeared before you right now, looking exactly like you expect God to look,
right,
all right, and sounding exactly like you expect God to sound,
yes,
okay, and told you that He doesn't tell people to kill people.
Correct.
You would not believe Him. You would say that it's Satan playing a trick.
Probably.
Okay. So what would be the point of God appearing before you and talking to you if you're not going to believe that it's God? You're going to believe that it's Satan playing a trick. So God wouldn't bother to waste His time on an exercise that He knows will fail.
Correct.
So there are people who do believe that God tells people to kill people. Okay? If you believe that the Bible is the Word of God, then you believe that God, every once in a while, tells Group A to genocide Group B, because that's what the Bible says, time and again. And some people don't believe that, okay? And some people when because I used to pray a lot, and I don't call it that anymore. I just call it talking. But when I used to call it praying, I prayed a very apologetic prayer to God, and it's silly now in retrospect, but I was apologizing to God for not being able to reconcile the Bible with good sense. And I told God, I'm sorry, God, I don't believe that you tell people to kill people. And God said, well, I'm really glad you said that because I don't. And that was the first thing that God said to me, was thanking me for not believing that God tells people to kill people.
Well, with the evolution of God, just like the evolution of this station.
You don't know. Anything that we say about God, you understand, is speculative.
Of course.
Yep.
But as we've matured as beings of the children of God, he now lets us make these decisions for ourselves. But in the beginning, he had to possibly tell people to kill people.
It's possible. Certainly, it's possible. But
You know?
but here's the other thing.
It's like disease.
Let's
talk about disease.
But
for
it
a
didn't
second.
happen. Sure, let's talk about
You know,
disease.
There was a time that God said, "I've got to eradicate a certain amount of people," and maybe He's done it as recently as the 1980s with AIDS.
But this is here. But here's another thing: God doesn't kill people.
No. People kill people.
People kill people and diseases kill people. I mean, I can tell you we've had lots of conversations with God, so I can explain.
Well,
and I see, because here's the thing: I don't know everything because God didn't tell me everything, because that's one of the points. It's like, because here's a thing that comes up a lot in conversations with God, and first of all, the conversations usually take place. God answers questions with, "What do you think?" and then He tells you if you're right or wrong. Okay. For example, God, do you kill people? And God says, what do you think? And I say, I think not. I don't think you kill people. And God said, right, you're right. I don't. Okay? So it goes like that. And I say,
He physically doesn't. But again, in the creation of man, who has multiple idiosyncrasies as he evolves, man kills, disease kills, accidents.
Well, there are parts of nature. I will tell you, because I guessed it right, so God told me I was right. So I know at least what's going on in the universe.
Opinion?
No.
No. Okay. Well, in my conversations with God, He doesn't actually talk to me, but He'll leave me messages along the way.
Okay.
So, if I say, "Am I right?" He might lead me to a message that would show me that
I don't believe anything that is contradictable. How's that?
Well.
Because what I believe are matters of fact. For example, and I go back to the sunrise. The sunrise is in the east, and if you disagree with me, you're a crazy person. If you disagree with me, we're done talking, and I walk backwards towards the doorway, and I don't turn my back until I'm out the room, because people that operate at that level of insanity, make me crazy. So I try to make sure that when I say things absolutely, that it is not something that can be contradicted. Okay, or at least it's your say against mine. For example, if you say God does tell people to kill people, I say no, He doesn't, and we'll just have to leave it at that, because there's no way for you to prove that God does, and there's no way for me to prove that God doesn't. So we just have to agree to believe our respective things. Okay, but I can tell you that it is not my opinion that God doesn't kill people. Okay? God creates and death happens. Okay? God creates and death happens. All right? Death is a part of life. There's a beginning and an end to everything, including the universe itself. So, and by the way, because here's another Godism for you. Here's another thing that I'm so glad that I got this one right, that God patted me on the head and told me I was right about this particular thing, all right? Because when I was asking God what it's all about, God, of course, likes to answer questions with questions, and He said, what do you think it's all about? Like that. And so I ventured some guesses, and I got some right, okay?
And I guess you got a few.
Sure, and I can
wrong
share
as
this,
well.
but it has nothing to do with the history of my people, so we're tangenting over here.
So let's
but
go
it's
back
like this:
to the
when someone,
history of
do
your
you
people.
believe that God gave you life? Let's just do this thought experiment really quickly. Do you? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, I do. And do you believe that life is a gift?
Yes.
Yes. What do you do when someone gives you a gift?
Thank them.
You say thank you.
Correct.
And then what? After you say thank you, then what do you do with the gift?
Well, you make it as well worth the gift
Right.
as you can.
Do you say, "Is this all I get?" Is that how you respond to someone who gave you a gift? Is this all I get? If somebody gives you a car, you go, "Just one?"
No, I say thank you.
You say thank you.
And
Right. You say thank you.
Correct.
Right. Do you say, "Is this all I get?" No, you don't say that. That would make you an ungrateful douchebag.
Correct.
Do you respond with, "Well, how do I get more of this gift?" Do you say that? Because I don't. I just say thank you.
Right.
You go.
just
Do you
thank
say the gift giver? Do you plague them with a whole bunch of questions like, "Well, how am I supposed to use this gift? Where can I go with this?" Like, let's use a car as an analogy. Sure. I just gave you a car. Only one? Here's some possible. Like, you be the car giver. What if I say the following responses to Mark giving George a car? Only one car?
If you're not satisfied with the car, I'll take it back.
It's a Toyota. I wanted a Lexus. Or, where can I drive with this car? Can I make left-hand turns with this car? What neighborhoods can I drive this car into? How can I use this car in such a way that the car will last forever? What do you mean it won't last forever? What kind of oil and gas and fuel and driving method can I use with this car that will allow me to drive it eternally? Mark?
Care.
Will this car last forever?
If you take good care of it.
No, of course no car will last forever if you take good care of it. Nothing lasts forever.
Well.
If you give me a car,
your
if you can take good you take the good care of this car, George, it'll last a very long time, but it's not going to last forever. Eventually the car will stop running.
Yes, because the dealers that made that car, the manufacturers of that car, don't want it to last forever.
Right, nevertheless, nothing lasts forever.
They want you back in 10 years.
But if you gave a car to
someone,
someone and all they did in response to you giving them the car is ask you a bunch of stupid questions about the car, you'd say, "Give me back the car, asshole."
Absolutely.
Okay, so when God gives me a gift, I say thank you.
And move on.
And
the end. And go forward.
And then I allow, because again, using the golden rule towards God, because the Christians like to say the golden rule but not live by the golden rule. Applying the golden rule towards God. If you give someone that you love a car, what would you want from them as the gift giver? What would you want from them? What would you want to see then follow after the thank you? If you're a good guy, obviously you gave the person the car because you like them, you're fond of them.
To enjoy that
you
car.
want them to enjoy it, and you want to see them enjoying it.
Absolutely.
And you want to see them driving around going, "I got this car! Look at my car. It's an awesome car. Look at me, everybody. I got this awesome car. This guy Mark gave me this car, and I'm just going to make the most of my car. Man, look at this car. I'm polishing it with a diaper. I love this car." All right? Yeah. That's what you want to see as a gift giver.
Yes.
All right? So there's a lot of other. We can go on with the God things about, like.
But I want to hear about your people.
The family people, because this is the big news thing, and it ties with the mezuzah nailing ceremony and why I'm wearing the yarmulke today. It all ties in, and I'm so surprised that you found out about the history Jewish, the Rodriguez Jewish connection over here. We're going to formally reconnect those things, because I don't know this for a fact, but I have a theory that the reason that the Rodriguezes didn't maintain their Jewishness was because of that whole ugly Inquisition shit. Yeah, you know, It's like, we got to keep the Jewish thing on the DL, yo, because they're burning people at the stake for being Catholic light, for not being Catholic enough. I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy time. They had to be really fanatical to beat the fanatics. They had to fight fire with fire, or so they thought. That was the rationale at the time, you know. And you know, we can go back and watch it. We do time travel. By the way, God gave me the gift of time travel. I asked.
God said, gifted.
Well. You know, in conversations with God, it's just like, "Can I ask for stuff?" And I said, and God said, "Like what?" And I said, like superpowers. Jesus had superpowers, you know. Can I have some? And God said, "Well, what do you want?" And I said, "Time travel. I want to be able to go back, because I'm curious. I watch all these history shows, and I got to recommend this to the audience. Mankind, the story of us. Oh, awesome graphics. It's like Cosmos, but with history. It's just wonderful graphics and just recreations and reenactments and everything, the origin of man and going through the ages and everything like that. So back to because the history of my people is the history of Florida, in case you didn't know. So we got to Casa Rodriguez and St. Augustine, and there we are. Okay, St. Augustine and the Castillo de San Marco, doing everything that the Spanish crown told them to do, holding St. Augustine for 257 years. There was a 20-year period there where Spain and England were trading properties, like trading cards.
Yeah.
So St. Augustine came under the rule of England for 20 years, but the population remained the same. It was just, the English are in charge here. It's like there's a different guy in that office now. And then it only lasted 20 years, and then it went back to Spain. But the population remained the same. The population of St. Augustine remained, there was some augmentation. You know how colonies are. More people came, but the original colonists that established and protected St. Augustine, and when people like Francis Drake and the other pirates and the British and the French came raiding St. Augustine, the people would take refuge. There was walls around the city, but eventually, if the things got bad enough, the people would have to fall back and all crowd into El Castillo de San Marco. The town would be overrun, and sometimes they would burn the town and everything in it. And the people would hold them off from inside the fort, and eventually repel the invaders. Sometimes Havana would have to send warships from Havana, because St. Augustine was another satellite colony, like all of them were, like Puerto Rico and San Juan, and then the Yucatan Peninsula and South America. These were all satellites that were tributaries of Havana. Havana was headquarters. So sometimes the warships had to come from Havana and drive off the pirates or the English or the French or whoever it was. But the people would hold the fort until they got there. Hold the fort! Until they got there, and then they would have to go out and rebuild the town from the smoldering ruins. They were always short on food. Havana had to supplement them all the time. So there was always a very close relationship between Havana and Cuba and the people of St. Augustine. And like they planted corn around the city once. They finally got corn growing over there, and the agents of Spain saw the corn and said, "Oh, and troops, British troops will be able to approach the town using the corn as cover," and made them cut all their corn down. These are things that you hear when you're taking a tour of St. Augustine. A lot of hard luck, but they stuck it out. And then 1822, and here's the thing. Spain set its slaves free many years before the other European powers. So slaves weren't just running north to get away from slavery. They were running south into Florida. The word Seminole comes from Cimarron, because Indians and runaway slaves would take refuge in the swamp, and the slavers would come trying to recapture the slaves, would come crossing into Florida, trying to recapture the slaves, and the Spanish crown would say, they're not slaves. Right. We don't believe in slavery. We designated that they're humans with souls, years before. Bartolome de las Casas convinced the Pope, so they're humans and you can't take them as slaves. Slavery is illegal in New Spain, which was what Florida was part of. It was the region of Florida, La Florida, which means flowery place, in case you don't know. The name Florida is a Spanish word meaning that place that is flowery. You knew this, of course. Florida history.
Yes.
So it was just a hard luck case, but then, the new United States was saying, well, this is causing problems over here, man. And Spain's like, well, tell you what, because we don't turn a profit with Florida. Florida's a swampland. I mean, all we got there that we really, really like is St. Augustine, which is the last stop for our treasure ships before they sail back to Europe with all their booty. So we could probably do without St. Augustine as the only city of any worth there, and the rest of the swampland. So why don't you make us an offer and we'll sell Florida to you, and then you'll be able to come after your slaves and it won't be a problem anymore. And the United States said, yeah, here's some money. And what happened to the St. Augustinians that had been there for 257 years, that had fought every attack and come back from every attack and built that town, including the Rodriguezes of that town? What happened to them, Mark?
They must have become Americans.
No, wrong.
What happened to them?
The Spanish crown forced them to evacuate, compensated them a pittance for their property and their efforts, and forcibly evacuated them onto galleons and relocated them to Havana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ain't
that shitty?
That is shitty.
That's shitty. Now, do you think that the St. Augustinians, upon arrival in Havana, ever forgot about that, including the Rodriguezes?
I don't believe they would.
They didn't. They didn't.
Wow.
They didn't. And they sat there in Havana. And of course, these were very industrious people that set up, they reestablished their businesses and everything back there in Havana and continued to grow their business and their wealth there in Havana while continuing to plot their return.
Right.
Yeah. And around that, now, meanwhile, your people having a little bit of a refugee problem after that. Your people
My people.
Your people having a refugee problem. Some of those refugees wound up in Cuba, and they would become Jubans. We got Jubans.
Yep.
The producer of the Neil Rogers Show before me, Marvin Rahman,
Was a
Juban. Talked about it often. Got a lot in common. Hate the Muslims. Fucking Muslims, man. The Jews show up. Jews show up in Havana. It's like, what are you guys here for? Muslims? Not this time. Fucking Nazis. Oh, the Germans. Yeah, well, sorry. We got some of that in the bloodline there. Yeah, but the Muslims, yeah, we can relate to the whole, Muslims, man. They're a pain in the dick, aren't they? It took us 500 years to get them out of Spain. So we got all these Jews in Cuba. And starting from the late 1800s, early 1900s, they start turning us on to the writings of, I don't know what you would call him, Rabbi, philosopher by the name of Theodor Herzl.
Okay.
Ever heard of him?
I've heard of him.
Yeah. He's the guy that got people excited about going back to their homeland. Yeah. The father of Zionism. That's Theodor Herzl.
Yep.
And the Jubans started laying that rap around Havana. Guess who picked up on that? Former St. Augustinians. Going back to where you came from, going back to the land that you conquered and fought so hard to keep. And somebody came and fucking at gunpoint made you get on a ship and leave. Bastards! Your own government. I mean, it wasn't like, well, why didn't the St. Augustinians resist? What do you mean St. Augustinian resists? A Spanish galleon shows up. Here comes the military. Hey, Spanish soldiers, how you doing? Hey, what are you here to do today, man? You're here to bring us some supplies? You're here to spend some money? No, we're here to evacuate you. You guys got sold. What?
Like slaves.
Spain? No, Spain sold your property out from under you. You're not slaves. Here's your cut from the sale. Here's your traveling expenses. We're here to load you up on that big galleon over there. We're gonna take you to Havana. You're gonna like it. Havana is so much nicer than this fucking shit kicker town that you guys have been hanging on to all these years. Havana is plush, man. Havana's got everything. You're gonna like it. Remember what Meyer Lansky said? The hotels here are bigger and swankier than any of the rub joints we got in St. Augustine. So my people got really excited by that. My people, the Rodriguezes especially, got really excited by that whole concept, and I've been playing a role ever since, this whole Palestinian sympathizers thing, because I was told to, we all got our mandates, the Rodriguezes. Like my mandate was to, to Spanish up some Irish, Spanish up some Irish. And I did so. I've got some beautiful, there's two Rodriguez girls of Irish, Irish stock.
They look like Irish stock.
Running around. Yeah. Well, my family's from the northern coast of Spain. The Galicians are the Gauls, the Irish of Spain. So we gel, we mix very nicely together. So now, because you posted that thing about, President Barack Hussein Obama's, I don't even know where that's at. Actually, I don't know where that's at on his table over here, but Raul Castro opened up a big mouth, and I guess, they were holding it off as long as they could. But now this is the part in the movie where the supervillain tells the hero the plan because it's too late for the hero to do anything about it. Like in a James Bond movie, might as well tell you the world domination plan because you're strapped to that table and a laser is about to cut you in half. So I might as well tell you what it is that I've been doing all this while and what is going to happen. Very inspiring, very buoyed and inspired by the story of your people and the reconquest of your ancient homeland that you hadn't been back to in 2,000 years. 2,000 years, my people were away from St. Augustine for 193 years. That was 193 years ago, 1822. Understand something that Florida was Spanish territory for 257 years. It has been American territory for 193 years. So it's been Spanish longer than it's been non-Spanish. Now that the time is right, and in Miami and Dade County and everything, that was just phase one. And this whole make Dade County a bilingual county, that was just kind of a polite way of doing something that's going to happen anyway. What's going to happen is Spanish is going to become the official language of Florida as we, the St. Augustinians, reclaim Florida for Hispania, for the Hispanoids. Florida is going to become a Hispanic territory called North Cuba, or Cuba Norte, as we call it. And there's really nothing that you can do about it. It's already a done deal. Raul Castro opened up the big mouth. It's not just that the United States is going to cede Guantanamo Bay back to Cuba. The United States is going to cede all of New Spain back to Cuba, northern Florida. It's all going back. And there's nothing that you can do about it. Now, but the good news for you is because you're Jewish. This is the good news for you, which is why I'm wearing my yarmulke. I don't know where my accountant is today. I got my phone on silence. He's probably texting me. He was supposed to be here at 12:30. I really want to do this ceremony today because I've been talking about conversion class for a long time. And so I think that it would be a good idea for us to go through conversion class together, except you're going through your Hispanic conversion class, which involves Spanish class. Okay? Now, it's not like all good news. Like you'll be allowed, like once you learn Spanish, you'll be allowed to stay and be employed and everything, but unless you have a Hispanic surname, you won't be allowed to be in any position of real power or hold elected office or anything like that. Wow. You do understand that it's going to be a Hispanic nation. No hard feelings. You understand that it's going to be a Hispanic nation once again. And you know, the inbred crackers, I mean, come on. These inbred mugwumps said they really, there's nothing they can do about it. It's already a done deal. And the rest of America's like, Florida's going to go back to the Cubans. I thought it was already. The rest of Americans don't give a shit about Florida. Now, I expect that there will be some Americans. There will be some Americans that are going to have a problem with that. And some Floridians, some of the crackers will probably have a problem with that. I expect that. We expect that. But we're familiar with that. We're very used to and experienced, like your people are, very used to and experienced with indigenous peoples having a problem with our agenda. Very experienced and with how to deal with that. You know, we've got, now this so far, the reconquest has been very peaceful and economical. But at any minute, we could just go the other way. Very experienced, got long list of credits and credentials when it comes to conquering a land and planting our flag on it and making it ours. We did it once, and we'll do it again, like your people. In Palestine, you did it once, you did it again. Florida, we did it once, we're going to do it again. But the good news for you, and like all of me, you know, and like the people that got the mezuzah for me and my rabbi, these are the people, we're all in on it. My rabbi has actually been counseling me this entire time. For years now, my rabbi has been counseling me in the Old Testament and the value system and the methods, and I've learned a lot about Israeli history and the success story that is Israel from him and the other people that I know. It's very, very inspirational, very inspiring. Now, I know that there's going to be some resistance probably eventually from some diehard Americans are probably going to, do things like ship weapons over the border to help the Floridians who are going to put up a resistance. So we'll probably have to build a wall over there on the St. Mary's River. And which, I love the design of the Israeli wall. Have you seen that? It's not like a wall so much as it's a zone. It's this big, long zone that's a series of walls, trenches, and exposed areas where you can shoot on anything that's within the zone. It's excellent design, excellent architecture. The designer of the Castillo de San Marco would be really impressed with that perimeter wall, the Israeli-Palestinian perimeter wall. So we're going to use probably Israeli engineering is the best thing. Get the guys that are designing that Israeli wall to create what we're going to call the Florida wall, and retake Florida, especially now that it's a little bit more developed and everything. Thank you, Henry Flagler, because it was a shithole before Henry Flagler, and I gotta love Henry Flagler. He's one of there are people that I really admire, like Thomas Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt that came to the rescue of my people, Henry Flagler that built the railroad because he didn't want that long-ass boat ride getting seasick. Him and all his rich buddies would go to Havana every year. It was a long-ass, tedious boat ride, water up and down, long-ass boat ride along the coast. They wish they could just take the train to Cuba. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just take the train to Cuba? And Henry Flagler's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to build a railroad to Cuba, at least as close as I can get, and then we'll take a quick little ferry the rest of the way. And I'll set up little spots along the way where we can stop, get off, party a little bit, and then just kind of continue our trip down there,
like downtown Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. They got the house and like Flagler College in St. Augustine. Henry Flagler, man, he dug St. Augustine too. Wonderful people. So I really thought, because is it getting on to 1 o'clock over here? A good time for a break, but that's a good stopping point because I really thought that my rabbi would be here by now to nail the mezuzah on the door, my Superman mezuzah on the door. And time for, because Mark posted that thing, Raul Castro wants Guantanamo back to Cuba. We're annexing Guantanamo Bay. It's not, because, okay, it's not, now that you know, it's not just Guantanamo that's going back to Cuba. It's all original Spanish property is going back to Cuba, in case you didn't know.
And you think it's that easy? Is that it?
It's not. Listen, Israel wasn't easy. You guys had to do a lot of blockades, and you had to do.
You can't compare what would happen if that were even to be thought of.
No,
I love the opportunity of slitting your neck.
But why?
Because you may think that it would be a peaceful execution. I think it would be an extremely violent execution.
Well, you might be picking up on a little bit of sarcasm over here.
Yes, and I think,
but certainly, if there's a rationale for going back to a place that you haven't been at for 2,000 years and saying it's still yours, then there's certainly a rationale for going back to a place that you haven't been at and for less than 200 years and saying it's yours, especially when you didn't lose it militarily.
It was purchased back by your people.
It was purchased. It was sold.
Well, it was sold.
But the colonists, they had nothing to do with that. They didn't want St. Augustine sold. They put their blood and soul into that colony, and it was wrong that they were evacuated. So they all ought to be allowed to come back and reclaim all Spanish territory and come back.
And I guess you would give San Antonio, the Alamo, back.
To
those Spaniards.
Listen. Those
second cousins.
Excuse me. Those brown-skinned Native Americans, those indigenous people, the Mexicans, those short brown-skinned Mexicans over there.
The Rodriguezes?
No. Brown-skinned Indians. Like, do you know the difference between a Anglo-American and a Native American?
Yes.
Do you know the difference? What method do you use to tell the difference between a European American and a Native American? Exactly. My people use the same method to determine who we are and who we're not. Right. And Mexico is Mexico, and that's its own problem, and that's nothing. If the Mexican government would like to reclaim its rightful property, the southeastern United States, California, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas, if the Mexican government would like to reclaim that territory and reabsorb it into Mexico, well, then that's their problem and that's their issue. I'm not concerned with that. Okay, I'm a St. Augustinian. Okay, I'm a St. Augustinian, and I'm here, and it's too late for you to do anything about it because you can't price. It's very much like you can't price the Jews out of a neighborhood. No, because the Jews don't have less money than Anglos. The Jews don't have less money than the crackers in the state of Florida.
You know how to get a Jewish person out of a neighborhood, don't you?
I don't know, moving some Muslims?
No, you move in some blacks. That does
but I thought,
every time.
see, Neil was the one that explained to me that it was the Jewish people that would buy the property first, and then they would sell it to black people. That's what Neil accused, people of doing.
Well,
is that just some shit that he pulled out of his ass?
Some shit he pulled out of his ass.
Okay.
Because having experienced that a few times in my life, growing up, what would happen is that some white American supremacist would come into a neighborhood and he would buy up all the homes and then sell it cheap, and to get rid of the Jews he'd sell
move some black people in,
and then he'd build another neighborhood a few blocks away that was higher, and all the Jews would buy in there and they'd live there for 15-20 years and then bring the blacks into there and
yielding because of who moves into your neighborhood. I use a Montana analogy that I call the skunk principle. When a skunk what is the biggest, baddest ass animal in Montana?
Skunk.
The grizzly bear.
Oh, okay.
Or the skunk. This is the analogy. The grizzly bear is a fearsome creature. It's almost bulletproof. It'll kill you. I mean, if you shoot it, it'll kill you before it dies. I mean, there's almost nothing you can do if a grizzly bear wants to kill you. You might be dead. You run up a tree, climb up a tree because they can't climb unless they're cubs. But a grizzly bear and a skunk meet in the woods. Which one yields? Which one gives way? The grizzly. Why?
Because the skunk is stinky.
Because the skunk is stinky, but the skunk is very small. Okay, so in human terms, if you move out of your neighborhood because a stinky person moves in, you lost. You lost the battle, buddy. It doesn't matter
course.
why, because the game is all about territory. So if someone moves into your neighborhood and they can get you to pack up and leave without firing a shot, think of what our ancestors went through. Think of all the battles that we've been talking about, and Spain taking 500 years to eject the Muslims. You know, why did they have to eject the Muslims through warfare and bloodshed? Because they couldn't stink them out. All right? The Spaniards tried to be stinky, and the Muslims were like, "Hey, we ain't moving just because you stink. We stink. Fuck you." So it had to come to blows. But if you can make your neighbor move away from you just by stinking, then you win. I mean, that's just one of the many weapons that are available to you if you win. But I at the risk of Mark sounding like a hypocrite, I don't understand why my people can't return to their homeland after being gone for less than 200 years, but it's okay for your people to return to their homeland when they were gone for 2,000 years.
You know,
why is that okay?
There is this assumption being made that it's my land.
What is that? Israel is your
Israel,
land, but you're allowed to go there. And
anybody can go there.
Anybody can go there and visit, but you have
my land.
But you're automatically a citizen.
No, I'm not. I'm a citizen of America.
Okay.
I am an American. I've always been an American. I was brought up to be an American.
I'm glad, because I'm very pro-American too, and I believe that we can have it one of two ways. And I tell people all the time, because I catch people in the midst of hypocrisy often, and I say, what are you American or what? Because what I care about, truly, all sarcasm aside, in the reconquest of New Spain, all sarcasm aside, everything that I said about the history of my people is absolutely true with St. Augustine and the relocation to Cuba and everything.
And I don't doubt any
but
of
there
it.
is absolutely no plan to retake Florida by force and create a Cuba Norte and build a wall on the St. Mary's River. There is no real plan. I'm joking about that. Of course I am. But what happened was when the commies took my family's stuff, my family knocked very politely on America's door and received as a response, no, it wasn't that easy. And America said, here's a stack of papers for you, and we're going to deliver a stack of papers to your family members that are already here in America, and you're going to fill all these out, and then we're going to go over them. We're going to hand both of the stacks of papers to the FBI to make sure that you're both truthful on each side of the border. Among these stacks of paper are, on the American side of the border, financial support documents where your family members have to pledge to be financially responsible for you in case you become a deadbeat. On your side of the border, you have to sign documentation foregoing any claim towards public assistance in case you become a deadbeat, because we're not going to allow you to come in the country and just try to live off of the Americans. So we're going to make you promise not to claim welfare when you come over here. You're going to be ineligible. Unlike the Americans who were born in America, you will be ineligible for public support. These are the conditions that we're going to allow you. And then we're going to do background checks on your side of the border to make sure that you're not a criminal coming over here. Because with all due respect, we're just not going to let anybody, any Jaime Schmendrick, come over here who wants to come over here. We've got standards, okay? So you fill out your paperwork over here on your side of the border. Your family members over here are going to fill out paperwork on this side of the border. We're going to background check them, of course, to make sure that they're not scumbags, because we're not going to let the family of scumbags in here, too. All right? We're going to subject you, we're going to look up your ass with a fucking flashlight to make sure that you qualify to begin the process of becoming an American. And after almost 2 years, we were approved. We made the cut. And then the kind, tax-paying people of the United States of America sent a DC-3 to pick me and my family up. The Cuban government would not allow my father and my two brothers to come over because they were conscription age. They were to be cut cane for a certain number of years and then be in the military for a certain number of years against their will, because that's what the commies do. Well, at least that's the totalitarian government of Cuba that brands itself as communist. They're not. It's an oligarchy, just like we have. They're not communists. We'll take the break. I mean, you got a break all nice and locked and loaded, so we'll take the break when David shows up, if he ever shows up. And I don't know if these people are going to be texting me or what, but I hope they're not. Good. I'm just checking real quick. I would say yeah, no, they're not texting. If he doesn't show up to hang my mezuzah, I don't know what we're going to do. He's supposed to be bringing he's supposed to be bringing his talis.
Right.
Making
it a real ceremony.
Yeah, he's going to make it a real ceremony. He's a rabbi, for Christ's sakes.
Hey.
Meanwhile, back to oligarchy and
Right.
and the rest of my family history. My family was doing quite well. My grandmother and her sisters were all born in New York City, and
Were they?
yes, they were,
How'd they
because
get
my
to Cuba?
family. Pardon?
How'd they get to Cuba?
On a boat.
Really?
My family, when they started leaving Spain, and by the way, because we're going to go into some Spanish history that you may or may not know, you probably know this because we're going to talk about isms. When my family left Spain to come to the New World, some went to New York, some went to Tampa, and some went to Havana. And my mother's side of the family, one of the members of my mother's side of the family, who went to Havana, bought a big chunk of property cheap on the other side of the river from Havana in an area that would come to be known as the town of Marianao, and did all right, had all this property, and it was really cheap. And the family members in New York and Tampa, they were doing all right, but they got an invitation from this lady. I forget her name. My older brother knows that. He's got the whole family history all written up, like a Mormon. He's got it. And so she invited family members, and some people took up her offer. So my New York family went to Havana because the people in my family in Havana was doing really well. So eventually 5 houses would be built on that piece of property, trapezoid-shaped piece of property. They built a stone wall around all of it with wrought iron gates for each particular house. And the different houses you could see, there were it was like going through time. Like there was like the first house, which was really old and gnarly looking, and then the second oldest house all the way up to the newest house as you made your way around the perimeter with a communal backyard. It was landscaped nicely with fruit trees and flower beds and things like that, little garden. After Castro took over, like a lot of people did, they converted it into an urban farm. And the flower beds got ripped up and became vegetable beds, and they started raising, chickens and goats and a pig or two a year so that we could have Christmas. So even then, they maintained a standard of living that not many other people could enjoy in a communist country because they had the land that they could work. And the communists were relocating people. They were evacuating people out of houses that were too big for them. Consolidating those people into houses and taking people, the cane cutters, and moving them into our houses so that they could enjoy the amenities of the city and go to school. That's what Castro did. Okay, that's what was going on.
And do you remember much of that?
I was 4 years old in I came over in 1969. I was born in 64, and all this was going on before I was born. But, I got to grow up hearing story after story after story, as I'm sure you did. Like, you probably don't remember the Holocaust, but you might have spoken to people who were involved in it or heard them speak about it. So it's like that. When you have a history and you have people in your family that have gone through that history, you get to hear it. You get to hear about it over and over again growing up. And there were people in my family that were sympathetic towards equality. Okay, because this is all revolutions that ever took place, including that one, were the result of grotesque inequality. Eventually, the people on the one side, whether they're good people, whether they're bad people, whether they deserve to be there or not, when you have a very lopsided system, when you've got a minority ruling over a majority, and it becomes lopsided enough, the majority, even if they're assholes, even if they're scumbags, the majority will attack the minority and reset the system. And then the Animal Farm principle, as I call it. Well, you read Animal Farm, okay,
right.
which was written to be a warning against communism, and now these days it's used as a as a warning against capitalism gone extreme, etc. But it doesn't matter the ism. Power corrupts, and people rise up and dethrone a corrupt king. And then it just takes time for a corrupt person within the ranks of the new people to filter back into that position, because the people that are drawn to that position, like we all have our character profiles, we all have our different personalities. There live among us people who are both very driven, who have a great work ethic, but also who are never satisfied. All right, these people exist in the world, and throughout history, you can see examples of it. Okay, you can see, Genghis Khan and Alexander the Great and Napoleon, and people who, even though they have acquired much, they still feel the need to acquire more. If you look through history, I love history, but explain the psychology of someone like Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan or Napoleon, that just no matter how much they conquer, It's just never enough.
Never enough.
Never enough. Hitler, and no matter how many European countries he was occupying, it wasn't enough. He and the Axis powered, they needed the world. They had to have the world. I mean, is that you? Is that your character profile? Do you have that same illness that these people have where you're never satisfied with enough? Because I don't understand that psychology. You know, I'm good with the happiness of my children. You understand?
Sure.
I'm very satisfied with very little property and very little material goods, but the smile on my children's face, you know, that's all I need. I'm a simple man. But for some people, they're like guppies, and nature programs us this way, and I think that there may be evolutionary throwbacks or something, but the guppy will eat until it explodes. Nature gives us desire, not limitations. We're not pre-programmed with limitations. The environment provides limitations. This is what drives evolution. Every animal is designed with a hunger drive and a sex drive and the compunction to reproduce, and it is the environment that limits. And competition with other organisms that limits. This is the mechanism of evolution, is it not?
Which is kind of evolving in our conversation.
Sure, it's very philosophical today.
Because one of the things that I believe as an American,
yeah, and we're getting there. I'm going to finish.
Right, especially as we have developed and aren't really conquering.
I think you would turn your mic up a little bit more, just a hair.
We're no longer really conquering any nations.
That's not true. Why? I think you're very naive. We've got like 500 some military bases across the world,
but we're not conquering powers.
That's not true.
We're more of a
that is not
police
true.
Force.
Well, first of all, that's a euphemism, and we're getting away because I want to do my George's tribute to America.
Okay.
Before we get into the American Empire as I see it, and my motivation behind, you know, and my agenda is the preservation and the welfare and well-being of the people that came to my rescue. Because upon coming, and I told you about what happened when my mother married that really crazy evil man.
Yes.
And the stepchildren. My mother met a guy, you know, upon arrival in the United States, and we're living off of 27th Avenue down here in Little Havana, like all the other Cubans. And my mother is working 2 jobs. She's helping out at the small fry private school, and she's working at El Bombero. So while putting herself to college all over again in English. My mother graduated from college cum laude twice, once in Spanish and once in English, and she was a teacher. So my family were all college-y, white-collar people. And that's what we all had to do. All of this first wave Cubans, the disenfranchised Cubans, they had to go to college all over again. If you wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, something else, you had to go to college all over again. Another funny thing that happened that you might not know is, you know, these very white people that were responsible for this grotesque inequity that led to the Cuban Revolution. All of a sudden, they're in Havana now. You understand?
Sure.
These shall we say, people with a right-wing mentality, capitalists, shall we say. And they asked the locals upon arrival in Havana, so how does the political system work here? And the locals said, oh, it's simple. You bribe the politicians and they do what you want. And the freshly arrived Cubans went, oh, I see. We're very familiar with that. We can work with that. Thank you. Thank you very much. And proceeded to do so. And you can see the result. And people wonder, why do the Cuban people have this preferred immigration status? Well, for one thing, because it was a communist country and we were allowed to defect like Russians were allowed to defect. This is a Cold War. You can thank the Cold War for that, because Cuba was a satellite nation of the Soviet Union and part of the Soviet Union, essentially. So we accepted defectors from Russia and we accepted defectors from Cuba, right? And also legal immigrants like my family were flown in on American planes. Thank you very much. Several waves of us, by the way, flew over here. Just so you know. So my mother married this gringo. He's a horrible man, but nevertheless, and moved us to the Redlands. The rednecking of George begins here at about the age of 5. And my step siblings were very nice, much to our surprise, because they had no reason to be nice. All right, and I grew up all my life listening to such bigoted horse shit both from the mouth of my stepfather and Floridians. Like perhaps occasionally you might hear some anti-Semitic cracks in your life growing up. You might overhear people talking that don't know that you're Jewish, and you might hear some anti-Semitic stuff coming up in your life. Has it happened? Has it occurred?
Yes,
where you've overheard it? Well, likewise, as someone who doesn't look like what people think a Cuban ought to look like, or sounding like what people think a Cuban ought to sound like, I overhear a lot of horse shit. A lot of things that aren't true. Oh, you Cubans, you come over here to get welfare. Well, actually, we're not allowed, but sure, just keep spreading that rumor. Oh, you Cubans, you're all, you all vote Democratic. And I go, well, and you obviously haven't met a Cuban, because I'll give you $1 for every left of center Cuban you can find. All right? I'll give you $1. Bring them up. For everyone you bring up to me and said, hey, I'm a Cuban and I vote Democratic, I'll give you $1. All right? I'll tell you what, I'll put $5 in my pocket, and in a year I won't empty that pocket. All right? Here's your challenge. I know where there's some are. All right? But I'll take you to one of my family functions where 100 people will be gathered in Coral Gables, and you won't find one there. All right? Yeah. You won't find a one. My brother number 2, Ernesto, God bless you. Shout out Ernesto. When he first got here, Ernesto, when he got here from Cuba, and we're having a political conversation and talking about, trickle down versus trickle up, et cetera, and so on, and the progressive tax rate and who should be taxed or something like that. He says, I don't want the rich man taxed because I plan to be a rich man. And when I'm rich, I don't want to be taxed. That's what he said to me. What an adorable statement that was. It made me laugh and laugh and laugh. I'm laughing to this day because it's years later now, and he's on the verge of retirement, and he has worked diligently all his life in a white collar job, and he's approaching the retirement age. Is he rich?
I would not.
No.
So.
The answer is no. No, he's not. Okay. College educated there, college educated here, did all the right things, did everything, raised the family, and did regular progression through, climb the corporate ladder and everything like that, in the Xerox Corporation. Xerox.
And he's not rich?
No, he's not rich. I mean, he's not an executive. He started out as a technician, and now he's got some title or something, and he oversees this and that, but he's not going to retire rich. The system isn't designed for you to climb your way to richness. You've got to do something else. There are two ways to get rich in America these days: be born into it, inherit your money and stuff, or be very, very industrious, like come up with a great invention, like Bill Gates or those people. They have a story or the what's the Facebook guy?
Zuckerman.
Right, Zuckerman. Like to have that next big idea, that thing, but you do not. There is no path to richness following, by climbing this and then getting promoted and climbing this. You might wind up retiring and doing okay for yourself. You might work your way to a comfortable retirement, but you're never going to get to what we call rich. No. Using the American dream used to include that as an option, but I think they've repackaged the American dream, where the American dream is now is shut up if you got some food and some health care at your retirement. Just shut up and consider yourself lucky. I think we've amended what the American dream is. The American dream used to be I own a house and can afford to send my children through college and will have a comfortable retirement. And that's been amended to if you don't have to eat cat food when you're old and go to the free clinic, you're lucky. So shut up. I think that's what we've amended it to. But back to my appreciation. The American people didn't have to let me in. All right. The American taxpayers didn't have to bail me out. I'd like to think that I returned that investment with my tax dollars that I've been paying since I was 14. I'd like to think that I was a good investment for America because I've been contributing positively since I've been here. But I will always appreciate that gesture because, when you knock on someone's door politely with your hat in your hand, they don't have to open the door and let you in. Mighty whitey if you're doing so, the Americans. And so that's where my heart is, and that's where my loyalty is to the Americans, and radiating outward, like City of Hollywood, because this is where I live and work. All right? Broward County. I'm concerned about Broward County. Train news coming up. Speaking of Broward County. The state of Florida. the United States of America, North America, the Western Hemisphere, planet Earth, okay, the solar system, the Sol system in intergalactic terms. We're going to be talking to aliens later. Because I didn't tell you that?
No, you
We're going to
didn't.
time travel and talking to aliens.
We did mention time travel.
Yeah, well, aliens can time travel too. And when you time travel, you encounter other time travelers like Doctor Who and aliens.
Ah.
Yeah, members of Star Trek. You know, you just,
Passed a few of those the other day?
Sure. Time travel. So this is where I care. And I often describe myself as a pragmatist, and I think Mark and I are going to have a series of discussions about what pragmatism is, and it's being logical. It's doing what's best for the most, doing what's logical. And there are lots of pragmatic examples. Like you can use pragmatism to deal with a lot of dilemmas. Like let's say you're stuck on a lifeboat with a bunch of people, and there's only so much food and water to go around, and you don't know how long you're going to be out on the ocean. Is it pragmatic to ration the food or water or not? Like that.
Be a pragmatist.
Yes. Be pragmatic. So I like to approach things pragmatically, and pragmatism is constantly at odds with our emotions. And I'm not a robot android, although I want to be. I play one on TV. I'm not a robot android, so I'm an emotional, and I'm as capable of making emotional decisions as anyone is. And I've been guilty of making emotional decisions in my life that I've regretted. And so I try to grow as a person and be a better person and make fewer emotional decisions as I mature and or catch myself when I find myself making an emotional decision, or reverse myself if I find that a decision has been made on an emotional level rather than a pragmatic level. And sometimes there's a delay because your emotions are instant. And your logic, sometimes my logic takes a while to catch up and process that decision. And then so later after the fact, I'll realize that I made the wrong decision because I made a hasty emotional decision or judgment call.
But I don't see that of you, but okay.
Well, certainly. I can give you two very huge examples of how I humored my emotions rather than logic. All right? My religious years and my marriage.
And I was not a part of either, so that's why.
Well, right, but people often ask me, George, you're so smart. How could you have been so religious for so many years? And I explained to them the emotional thing, because you're a salesperson, and we talked about this before. When I was listening to the sales tapes, and thank you, hey, shout out to Dwayne Williams, KLCB, Libby, Montana, freezing his ass off up there. But he made me listen to sales tapes, and he gave me a sales book, and we even went to a sales seminar in Lewiston, Idaho, where they have a paper mill, and it smelled like shit in the entire town. Bookmark that salesman story, because I think that the bagel delivery boy is here. Hey, what? What did you hit your head? Oh, you just come in and just talk. Just come in and talk. It's under my yarmulke. It's under my yarmulke, man. Listen, there's so many things. Bagels and schmears. Thank you over there. This is my Superman mezuzah, because as everyone knows, Superman is Jewish.
Did you check the cloth inside? Do you know what the cloth is?
Yes, of course it's there. This came from Israel. All right.
Oh, yeah, that pops like a champagne.
I know. I think they're glued in there. I think they're glued in there.
Yeah.
He is Jewish. You can't find his yarmulke. David, Mark, David. It's okay.
Hey.
But do grab that
No, my name is David Mark. No, Mark David. What is
green
my
the
name?
green microphone for
green
the rabbi, please. That means turn that up so that we can hear the man there. Right there, where your thumb was. Nope. Yes. Is that it? Tap on that microphone there, David.
Testing.
Excellent.
it.
Yeah, we
That's
want
it.
to talk to you. I've been wanting.
pretty
I've
Yiddish.
had that.
How
that
many years has it been
mezuzah
going?
for a long time. Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. Do we?
Camera follow.
It's been like 20 years.
It's been a lot of years. I explained to Mark. I don't know if you were listening to the show, but I've already explained to Mark that you are my Zionist consultant for the Cuban reconquest of Florida, and
My buddies.
and the Cuban people have been very inspired by Israel, and how
Especially
if
for
you can
Alan
go
Gross's
back to a land that you
Alan
conquered,
Gross is a personal
right?
friend of mine, by the way.
Interesting.
I was
Actually, we got him freed. There's a story behind that as well. I did a commentary the day supposedly that
Really?
Obama got him freed.
That's like a 4-letter word.
yeah.
Yeah,
No.
But we're taking credit for it because Mark said it first.
I did.
Oh, so you served in the army over there?
No, but
No.
Cuba, I mean?
no. I'm
Remember
not-
with
I-
Teddy
Israel?
with
My
Teddy
son just came
Roosevelt.
back.
Yeah, you told me Shmuel. How's he doing?
He just came back from the army.
You got to talk right into that microphone. You're part of the show now.
He was in the war.
You got to give him some juice. Grab it, and talk right into it.
Paratrooper, sharpshooter.
Right.
He was right there in the thick of things in Gaza.
Green.
So
green mic.
I'm as
There.
Zionist as they get.
Right. The green one.
Stop correcting me.
No, I'm not going to correct him until I see David's levels bouncing where they should be. Do you want? I got some tweezers. You're not going to write on my scripture, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm just checking it.
Okay, because I think it's glued in there.
I know it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
Well,
there.
you blame the Israelis for that.
Well, why
they
you
like
de-
to use glue.
Why are you dealing with Israelis?
Why am I dealing with Israelis? That listen, my
You know
Superman
me forever.
My Superman mezuzah came directly from Israel.
That's part of the problem. It might be a comic strip.
It might be a comic strip. Maybe it's a caricature of Muhammad. Wouldn't that be special?
That would be pretty cool, and that happens a lot.
So I explained to Mark that that you and the other Zionists inspired me that if you can reconquer a land that you were expelled from 2,000 years ago, we can reconquer a land that we were expelled from 193 years
And
ago,
you
which is
should.
Florida,
And you
St.
should.
Augustine. Well, it's happening. It's too late now. Raul Castro opened up a big mouth. I didn't think that listen. They didn't even send me a memo. Talk about not on the mailing list anymore. I really thought that I was going to be in on when we went public with the whole campaign, the reconquest of Florida. But
Listen,
no.
I'll do whatever you need. You know that as your
Right.
spiritual advisor.
Well,
And I agree.
you're here to nail my mezuzah up to the door, and then Mark and I are going to go through conversion class together. He's going to Spanish class. I'm taking Hebrew, and then we're going to make him an official Juban. We're going to both become Jubans at the same time.
George,
Yeah.
you know more Hebrew and Yiddish than
I
than
certainly
most Jews.
I certainly know more Yiddish than anybody I know, except possibly Neil, because that's where I got it all.
Well,
I
Neil,
bought a book and a tape. How to speak Yiddish. Ask me what my favorite Yiddish phrase is.
What's your favorite Yiddish phrase?
Ge kaken auf en yum.
And you know whose other special phrase that is?
Neil's?
My triplets.
Your triplets?
Go around telling everybody. Go
I
cock it up
love
and
that.
yum.
Ge kaken auf en yum.
And
Do you
what
know
does it
what that
mean?
means, Mark?
Yes, I do.
What does it mean? Say it for the audience.
Literally.
Literally, go shit in your head.
No.
Go shit in the ocean.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the
Which
Jew
is
doesn't know,
wonderful.
and the Cuban does.
And the whales are going, what's wrong with shitting in the ocean, I ask you.
Exactly. Now there's a better one, which my son says, my 7-year-old.
Yes.
He says, "Gay cocking up the hoisen."
What's the hoisen?
The pants.
Oh,
Or
hey.
in your underwear.
That's great. So are you going to read that? Is it all
I'm not
taped
going to
up?
read it, but
It's in shrunk wrap. You're going to
show you.
verify
Make
it.
sure
I'm actually
it
going
says
to
Shema.
I didn't know. See, the Catholic...
Wait.
What?
He
I missed
just did it. He just said it.
I said you're going to make sure it has the Shema.
I thought he was a
The
heathen.
Shema. No.
No, a heathen. There are a lot of heathen Jews out
He's
there.
very Jewy. He's got a Star of David tattoo on his ass.
George, I'd eat in your house before his from the looks of things.
My ghetto apartment. You've been there.
Oh, it's the same one?
You've been to the apartment,
on
but
the
I
water.
live there now since
On
my
the
divorce.
water.
No, that's the house. The house is lost. It's all gone. The divorce. Thank
Poor
you,
thing.
everybody. Whatever.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I got nothing except
Really?
the love of my daughters and the state of Florida.
Daughters?
Very soon, daughters.
Wait a minute.
I have two.
Where was I for number 2?
I have daughter number 2.
Where was I
She's-
for that?
I don't know. She's almost 13. She's going to be 13 in 3 weeks. Wow. So you're going to read that to me? I didn't.
gonna-
Man,
I'm
I've
gonna
never
show
had
you.
that open before. I didn't even know that did that.
He's going to make sure.
We're going to take a break. We're going to eat bagels. Thank you very much for the bagel delivery.
Bagels there are 3 cream cheese ones.
Okay.
George got a special one.
All right.
Whitefish.
Oh, hey. Love that whitefish. Like the smoked
Sponsored by
fish.
good friends of mine. The Israeli-owned Bagels and More on Sheridan Street.
Oh, really? I hope you got their card in there. We'll give them a plug. Speaking
better-
of plugs,
you better give them a
I got to
plug.
plug. I got to plug Jimmy. I forgot his card. It's in the other room. Hang on.
Jimmy from the Greek place.
He bought a plug. No.
Oh, okay, another Jimmy. We're all about Jimmys here. So we'll take back the Greek place then.
I told him I'd do it right at noon. He's got his boss listening, and so it's only an hour and a half later. Northern Insurance Group, James D. Bandmiller, Jimmy, and I'm going to give his number out on the air.
What kind of insurance?
His
do they
cell
have,
phone number.
George?
All kinds of insurance. The one that applies to you the most, yacht insurance.
Yacht insurance.
Yacht
yes.
insurance.
For both my yachts.
I didn't know you had two. What
I
do you
have
got?
a plastic one and I have a rubber one.
Okay, because I didn't know if you had like a weekday yacht and the weekend yacht.
No, I have plastic and rubber. There is a difference.
Is it fake? Is it
Did you
trafe?
spend a lot on this?
I didn't spend anything on it.
Next
It was a
time-
gift.
Next time, speak to me.
So it's not going to work.
No, it'll
can
work, but
can I
it's
replace it?
It's cheesily made. You see the schmuck?
Cheesily made. Look
very
at that.
cheesily made.
The intent of the person was not to give him a cheesily made one.
But-
she just bought him one that she felt.
Let me give this phone number out. 954
This is for James.
856 1924. That's
1924.
954. He paid for this ad. I'll give you your cut after the show.
Okay.
All right. 954, right? 856-1924. Call my friend Jimmy from Northern Insurance Group, and he will insure your assets.
Assets.
Sounds like a mile joke almost.
And the name of the insurance company?
Northern Insurance Group.
Hey, we're going to give them a call.
Will you? Yeah.
Sure.
Tell them that we work for bagels.
Ah.
This is your Jubin Broadcasting Company for the new world, for the new millennium. But back to America.
Back to America.
So this is when I come up with pragmatic policies, or when I am confused about policies, and once assuming that my emotions aren't getting involved, and I've gone through that check, the policies that I seek to embrace are the policies that are the best for the most, and who are the most? The tax-paying workers of America, the people who work and pay taxes. Those are the people that bought me the plane ticket, all right? It wasn't the aristocracy of America, all right? It wasn't the bums of America. It wasn't the homeless of America. It was the people who pay taxes of America were responsible for buying my plane ticket. So my loyalty. Thank you. Were you a taxpayer in 1969?
Absolutely was.
Thank you. I bought you a bagel.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Es gesund hate, as we say.
Yes, we do say that. So when are we going to nail that? And do we have to do?
Should we nail it now? Should we say the bracha?
Say the bracha, and then we'll take a commercial break. You can nail it while I eat a bagel. How's that? And then I will queue up some music over here. I never did do the big check that I was going to do before the show, Mark, to see if I can read that drive over there. But we'll figure it out. So do the bracha, and then we'll do the nailing. Or do you have to do it at the door?
We're gonna do it at the door.
I don't have a cordless mic.
But I'm gonna make the bracha here.
Do the bracha
and then
here.
Run over to the door, which is like.
And then there's
6
another
inches
one.
Away. No, and that's it.
Okay.
And
well,
the way we're gonna do it.
Do the bracha here. We'll go into the break, and then nail it while I eat the bagel.
Awesome.
How's that?
Here we
okay.
go.
Go ahead. Do I have to do anything with the yarmulke? Do I have to fold my arms? Is there?
You can.
The Catholics have all kinds of poses.
Yeah, we don't do poses. The only thing you do at the end of the bracha is you say Amen.
Okay.
And not Amen. Give me like an Orthodox.
Do I have to? Do I have to?
You could do a. You could do a bracha.
Achmein.
Not Achmein. That's like Ahmed.
That sounds like very Arabic, doesn't it?
Isn't that amazing?
Amen.
The only two people that have in their language are Jews.
Children
and
of
Arabs.
Abraham. The children of Abraham, man.
He knows these things.
I know it. It's a family feud that's going on over there. That's why I don't want to be involved, but I am.
You are.
I am involved.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
You ready for the bracha?
I'm ready.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedoshanu mitzosav v'tzivanu likboa mizuzah.
All right.
Amen.
Amen. It's 1:36 on All Jewish Radio, SoFloRadio.com. Shock Pop Comic-Con, South Florida's biggest Comic-Con and pop culture experience, comes to the Broward County Convention Center in Fort Lauderdale, February 13th through the 15th, featuring the largest guest lineup ever in South Florida, including Robert Englund, John Waters, Bam Margera, RJ Mitty, Danny Trejo, Elvira, Ralph Macchio, Sylvester McCoy, and more. Reunions from A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Friday the 13th, Demons, The Karate Kid, The Hobbit, X-Men Days of Future Past, Angel, Miami Vice, The Brady Bunch, Sons of Anarchy, and tons more. See the biggest lineup of comic artists and writers ever in South Florida. Tons of animation guests, pro wrestlers, a massive vendor floor including artists, crafters, exhibitors, movie and television studios, over 4,000 square feet of video games and tabletop gaming, original art exhibits, tons of screening, Ink Fusion Tattoo Festival, live music performances, and a cosplay contest with the largest payout ever in South Florida. Join the cast of the Powwow, Luis the Artiste, Joe Daddy, and cosplay Scream Queen Chainsaw Sammy, broadcasting live every day from 1 to 3 p.m. Listen live on SoFloRadio.com. Brought to you by ShockPopComicCon.com.
Put a team of professional consultants behind your home or business computer with Key Information Solutions, providing solutions to your internet and computing needs while keeping you on the cutting edge of technology. Preventative maintenance and networking support, hardware and custom-built computers. Let Key Information Solutions be your personal tech staff for your home or office with affordable hourly, monthly, or annual rates to fit anyone's budget. Call Key Information Solutions now, 954-973-3374. That's 954-973-3374. Or visit keyinformation.com.
Hi, This is Jeff Cohen of the Pizza Loft. The Pizza Loft has been making the best pizza in South Florida for over 300 years.
Wait a minute. Whoa.
What?
Just because you make the best pizza in town don't necessarily mean you can voice your own commercials.
Why not? Look, I just painted my nails for this.
You just get back in the kitchen and do what you know best, okay?
Well, if you think you can do a better job.
A dead man can do better at this, and I'm almost there. Now scram!
All right.
Now see here. You want the best pizza in town? Not to mention a full menu of mouth-watering Italian dishes at prices the whole family can afford? Then you ought to know by now. Pizza Loft is the place for great Italian dining. And the pizza... Mo knows. I stole my share. That's Pizza Loft, 3514 South University Drive in Davie. Or call 954-916-8880.
When Strawberry Patch and Smoothie come.
Get your hands off me.
Huh?
I said don't touch me.
I shouldn't have went to that party last night. Now I'm seeing talking fruit.
You're not dreaming, bub. And you're not putting me in that blender.
But you're just a fruit.
Who you calling a fruit?
You are. You're a delicious passion fruit.
Why, sure I'm passionate. How would you like to be blended, huh? I got right, you know.
Customers waiting. You gotta go.
Yeah, but wait, you can...
At Power Smoothie in Aventura, we show fruit no mercy. Always fresh, always delicious. To make the best smoothies and wraps on earth, try our new cilantro lime-alicious wrap or our hot chipotle chicken. Power Smoothie in Aventura, located just north of the Aventura Mall in the Promenade Shops. Or call 305-792-5338. Open 7 days a week.
SoFloRadio.com.
Liberally sprinkled with Jews.
Jamaica. Vena mola landa zizera feine. Jamaica. Kinder Hugget werden in Jamaica, me sugar werden in Jamaica, kick a killer in Jamaica. Vena mola landa zizera scheine.
Rasta me, Rasta you, Rasta black, Rasta Jew, Rasta Jew, oi, Rasta Jew. I say I and I say wo yo yo.
Oi!
How come you don't wear dreadlocks? I'm not that orthodox. I like Jimmy Cliff, and I like to smoke a spliff. I like matzo bright. I am a Yiddish type of guy. Rasta me, Rasta you, Rasta black, Rasta Jew, Rasta Jew. Oh Lord, yeah, Rasta Jew. I like goat's head soup, and I ride a motorbike. Chicken soup with Canada lack, that's what I like. Have you ever tasted red peas, rice and greens, plantain and gefilte fish? That's much more my speed. Rasta me, Rasta you, Rasta black, Rasta Jew, Rasta Jew. I want me tell you, Rasta Jew. I'm dying over here. Rasta me, Rasta you, Rasta black, Rasta Jew, Rasta Jew. Yes, man, Rasta Jew. What are you doing? It looks like you're smoking a newspaper.
That's a spliff, man.
Why do you always keep your pants unbuttoned?
I'm always ready for action. Check it.
Do I like cooked bananas?
Do you like cooked bananas?
What are you, crazy? Do you at least peel them first?
We mash them up full of man.
Thank you. Rossaju is the longest Jewish bit we have if you want to do trivia. Although I don't understand. We have a song here from Boca Brian called "Hey Jew."
Hey Jew.
Have you heard that before?
Hey Drew.
It's "Hey Drew." This is "Hey Drew." That's what I thought it was by Adam Kirshner. So let's just delete that right now. Thank you so much. How you doing, David?
I'm
welcome,
doing
welcome to the
wonderful.
show. You got to talk right into these things as if they were there. Haven't seen you in years, and you have a beautiful girlfriend now, and you've got a grand total of how many children now?
4.
You never asked that
4.
question of a rabbi.
What? How many children he has?
That's right.
What? I didn't know. Is that a thing?
It's a Bubba Meiser.
That's not a thing.
It's not a
You gotta ask
Baba
him.
Meiser.
I haven't seen him in a long time.
I'm-
long lost friend.
A rabbi in my shul who retired to Israel said, you have to answer, I am blessed with 4 children.
I am blessed with 4 children. Well, I am blessed with 2 children. They're the best in their way. I got pictures, but we're on the radio, so I can't really show these things. I got some texts from some of the other people that are in the cabal with me in the
cabal.
saying, great show, and it's such a relief that we don't have to keep this under wraps anymore. Such a huge relief. It's like letting go of a fart you've been hanging on to for years. It's like all through church. I don't know if that's a Jewish problem, but at the Catholic Church, and you got to halfway through Mass, you got a fart on deck, and you got Jesus Christ, what am I going to do with this fart now?
I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's what the incense is there for the Catholic Church. In case you didn't know.
When I'm leading the service,
Yeah.
you got to wait for a noisy part of the service when everybody's talking and stuff.
Yeah, but that doesn't do-
No, but then you could just let
doesn't
loose and nobody's going to hear it.
Cover the scent, though.
Oh, but if you're up there as the leader, there's
okay.
nobody around you.
I see. No, I'm talking about if you're in the pew, then you have to fart. And I'm wearing my yarmulke today because
I got to get a picture of that.
it's time for the cat's out of the bag. My hair. I mean, in case you haven't noticed my bald spot over
my
there.
goodness.
You're not fooling me. The Jews are such smart innovators of things. There's no question in my mind why the yarmulke was invented, and that's old men and their bald spots.
Except
It's
you need a bigger one and the yarmulke too.
I got a bigger one. I have the collection of yarmulkes that we have. That's a tiny one there.
Yeah, but I don't got a bald spot.
The thing about this yarmulke that I like is that it's my colors. First of all, red's my favorite color, red and black. It's got a swirly spiral pattern. I like spirals, but the weave of it just really holds it on the stubble of my head.
You don't need a bobby pin
Really
or a
holds it
clip.
on. I don't need a yarmulke clip. Remember those?
They call them clipped keepers.
So I got the Superman mezuzah finally on the door there, Mark, so you can be proud.
Correct.
So we can represent.
I see.
Yeah.
Maybe the landlord will come by and give you a couple dollars off.
Ben Cohen, Super
Cohen.
Jew Ben Cohen. Let's hope. Hey, give us a couple dollars off. What do you get? You get the mezuzah discount, 10% off your rent if you have a mezuzah on your
And if you get the bris, and Rabbi, we've got to perform the bris sometime soon with them.
He's good. He's good. I've checked back.
Yeah, no, I gotta. I don't know how we're gonna do that. I know you're not supposed to be on any pain pills, but I plan to cheat. When I get circumcised.
Do you want my buddy Scythe the Knife to cut you a deal?
Yeah. when
cut rates.
when I do the where's the drum?
Come on, I'm setting you up here. You want to know what do you want to know what his favorite drink is?
What?
Slice.
Oh God
I thought you were gonna
Almighty!
say Bloody Mary or something. You know?
No.
I gotta find the rim shot over here. No, here it is. Thank you. A lot of bris jokes. Well, I turned 50 in December, so I've lived up half my life. I'll trafe like a goyim. I'm going to live the next half of my life as a very from Jew.
Good line. assuming you're going to live another 50.
Are you kidding?
Without a
I got that down. God told me that at least another 50. I've been having conversations with God lately. Yeah.
Interesting. You haven't told me about that.
No, we haven't spoken. We haven't
Come to
We haven't
confession.
spoken in a long time.
Come to
No.
confession.
Confession at the temple. Yeah, I didn't think you guys did that.
We do anything for a buck.
The reason the Catholics do, right? You know why they have the Catholic confession and the confessional?
Why?
Because the priests are pervs and they want to hear all your dirty stories. I mean, I thought everybody knew that. It's no
obvious.
secret. Priests are pervoids. Pervoids.
It's been, happening in our field a lot lately.
Bottles of water. I noticed
we
that it's
can
like
talk about
not to be outdone.
Washington D.C. There was a big thing recently. If you saw.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
sad.
What's going on? By the way, all these things in New York. Now that you're here, everyone, Facebook is a great news resource, and I have. You think that you know me by what I post, but you should also know me by what I don't post. All these stories coming out of New York of the babies getting herpes from the rabbis doing the finishing them off.
Called metzitza, the pet.
Metzitza. I knew that you would know the name for it. The rabbis suck the blood off of the end of the penis after the
They're
circumcision.
supposed to with their lips.
Right, they're supposed to, but they're giving herpes.
So now
And
they
some of
stopped
the
doing that.
children
They're
are
using a gauze pad or they're
dying,
using
and the children have died. Babies have died from the herpes thing, and I'm not posting those stories, Mark. And do you know why? My enormous appreciation of the Jewish people and the inspiration that they are towards the Florida Reconquest movement that I'm a part of. That you're welcome to join in.
I think I've told you briefly.
You got to turn your microphone up just a little bit.
I've told you briefly of what happened with me
when you were circumcised. You said a little.
No,
that's my microphone, not yours. Sorry. There you go.
When taking my lessons for my bar mitzvah.
Okay.
But I was.
No, please share that.
I was molested by my rabbi during my mafter lessons.
You must be kidding.
No,
it's not.
Was it an Orthodox rabbi?
Orthodox rabbi.
In where? Up north?
Sounds like a very unorthodox rabbi.
Ephraim Shapiro, very well known, and he was the principal of the local yeshiva.
And you let it happen.
I let it happen, and I kept quiet about it for 40 years, as did almost everybody else. But once it came out, quite often and by many different people.
Where is he now?
Dead.
Because there was another case just yesterday I was reading of a Baltimore rabbi who's out in the Midwest somewhere that was also just recently picked up for molesting young girls.
This guy molested boys that were there for mafter lessons, and he was a well-known rabbi. Like I said, I kept it quiet for like 44 years. Wow. And nobody knew about it. He married me, married my parents, married my wife's parents, strong history within the community. And he was the principal of the local yeshiva. And
not shocking, unfortunately.
No. And, it does not control or run my life, but it is part of my life. And
you can't separate that from yourself. It'll change you forever. I've known people, girls mostly, but guys too, and it really changes your complexion. It makes you break out in distrust.
In distrust, yes.
Sure, but I've known David for years. Met him through the Neil Rogers show, and we've had lots of great times and lots of great talks.
Well, he looks like a great guy
and everything.
And he's got a 21-year-old girlfriend.
No,
I bring him. I bring him around.
Are we talking about that on the radio?
I didn't bring it up. I bring him around for Jewish street cred. If I'm going to like some really rough Jewish neighborhoods, the kind where they wear their tzitzis down real low.
Right.
I just wanted to check that I'm wearing my tzitzis.
Yes, your magic strings. Because some of those Hasidic neighborhoods, they can be really dangerous,
especially in New York.
Right.
But down here, I don't find.
I keep David around to vouch for me.
I don't know that many Hasidic neighborhoods down here.
Miami Beach. I was just there last night. They all come down in the winter.
And Sterling Road.
Yeah, we have lots on Sterling. Actually.
Yeah, I told Mark that on Saturday Sterling Road is, I call it the hat parade if you're driving up and down Sterling Road. But it's just amazing, some of those hats out there. I swear to God, I saw
the
one.
Women or the men?
Both, but the women, of course, are much more elaborate. Like I really like the big broad brimmed fedoras. I mean, those look fucking sharp. But the women, I swear, I've seen things. I've seen fruit baskets. I think I saw a bird cage one day. But my favorite one that I saw, the electric train.
No.
Yeah.
Way.
She had an electric train going
like
around
an FAO Schwartz.
Yeah. It's like, that's brilliant. I slowed the car down. I almost caused an accident. Like, look at that. Look at that as an electric train there.
Did you scream out, "Hey Jew," like most of them do on Saturday?
No. Why would I do that?
I don't know, because we're used to it.
Yeah, but no. But I'm not gonna do that. I might do a fist pump in the air. Hey. I don't know. You know what would be a good idea is a selective horn. A horn that honked different things depending on the occasion. Wouldn't that be nice? Different buttons into different tunes. So if I'm driving down Sterling Road, like I press a button and the horn honks Hava Nagila. You know,
I knew you were going to say that.
Why not?
As you were
what
talking,
else?
because you wouldn't think of any other song.
Well, I wanted to think of something stereotypical. Like, of course, for Little Havana, it would be La Cucaracha.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, that's what everybody. Although more accurately, La Cucaracha. I don't know which country, Spanish country exactly La Cucaracha comes from. It might be Mexican.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So the Cuban horn should definitely do Guantanamera, just to do it. Now, Cielito Lindo, which people refer to as the Frito Bandito song, that's a Cuban song, but it's been appropriated. The Frito-Lay Corporation now has people thinking that that's a Mexican song. The I'm the Frito Bandito. That's actually to the tune of Cielito Lindo, a Cuban song. But La Cucaracha, I'm not sure where that comes from. That could be Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican. Who the hell knows? So the train story. I don't know if you live anywhere within earshots of this train over here. The whistle, but I told my friend Jeff that I was going to tell the train story, and I can save it because I know that you're on a schedule. Did you have that meeting?
I'm leaving in 2 minutes. So.
In 2 minutes. So then I don't want to squander your last 2 minutes. I just want to say that it's really nice to meet you. I love your watch. It's a very beautiful watch.
Gift from my son for Father's Day.
Relatively understated. It's not too gaudy. It's nice. I like just nice silver.
Exactly.
Silver watch. I might give Mark a gaudy watch. He looks like a gaudy watch guy.
So when are we going down to Rabbi David's synagogue for Shabbos services?
I want to check the schedule for the conversion classes so that I can start learning Hebrew. I've already got my own.
Necessarily learn Hebrew.
I've still got know that 5 books of Moses that I think you brought in.
Yes,
I still have it. It's in my bookcase.
Get out of here.
I have it. I'm telling you, I have it. It's in my bookcase at home. I have all my religious books and all my history books, and I tell people all of this shelf here happened because of all of this shit up here. All of the religious books of all the peoples. It's like this is why this happened. All of that, all of the conflicts and the movement.
And I've
of border.
seen them. So
yeah,
it's the truth.
You can't study one without the other. Really, you can't. If you're studying history, you'll know what happened, but not why.
Correct.
Without studying all the other stuff.
It all goes back to the 5 books.
Yeah. The Pentateuch, as my people call it, the 5 books of Moses. Penta meaning 5. The Pentateuch.
What's the uch?
I don't know, but that's the Pentateuch. They might say ach. You never know. Look it up on Wikipedia. Wonderful resource. Where's your synagogue?
Sterling Road.
Oh, Sterling. So you're part of the hat parade.
I'm part of that hat parade. I don't wear a hat, but I'm part of the hat
parade. You can't schlep on Shabbos. Well, did you hear earlier? Well, like carrying your car keys or pushing a baby.
If there's an Erev, you can.
Yeah. Well, I want to start a movement. We're gonna put the entire city of Hollywood should be an Erev enclosed zone. The entire city of Hollywood. What do you think?
Why do we want other parts in our Erev?
Well, because there's Jews everywhere. I see them walking around downtown. I mean, why just Aventura and Sterling Road up here?
They're all over the place.
Right.
They walk to synagogue in Coral Springs and Deerfield Beach.
Right, but they don't necessarily carry stuff or push their baby carriage or chew gum.
But they do. I mean,
if there's no Erev, they can't.
Right, but there is an Erev there. I mean, I think Florida is one of the unique places that has so many different.
And Miami Beach.
Miami Beach definitely does.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Is there a limitation to how big the area can be?
No, so just be expanded.
Cover your ass.
But there are certain places, like there was just a big fight out in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that this is like the 3rd or 4th fight that they didn't want the Erev going up. They said it was actually the Jews, the self-hating ones, that were fighting the Erev and saying, it's disturbing our peace. Now all it is wires on the electric,
I
the
understand.
poles that you can't see.
It's like the people in New England that were offended by the windmill generators offshore. It ruined their view of the skyline because these windmill generators were way off over in the horizon somewhere. Obviously, there are people that are just looking for problems to have. I don't have any problems today. I wonder where I can go find one.
Right, so
honey, do you have any extra problems? I'm all out. I'm all out of problems today. Let's have a problem with the string now.
Exactly. But really, what happened in the end?
What happened in the end?
Self-hating Jews lost. And the Erev is good in the Hamptons.
Put string up everywhere. How about put silly string up everywhere? We'll come up with our own. I think the Arab should be like that multicolored yarn. It's got to be pretty, I know.
Everlasting, and it's got to be checked every week to make sure that it's good.
That it's good? Like, how can it go bad?
It gets destroyed dirty by the wind. It breaks.
Oh, okay.
It's got to be all around.
Whose job is that?
I guess there's an Erev checker.
Is there also a pecker checker to make sure you're circumcised when you go to synagogue?
Speak to his ex-rabbi about that. Maybe that was what he was doing. Maybe he was checking for brisses.
Maybe he was there at mine. I was told, but
he was at your bris.
Yes, he was.
And he just continued on through the bar mitzvah.
He was not the mole, but he was at the bris.
He was checking you out
probably
at 8 days.
You got that. So
that's great.
Part of the
very Jewy
heritage.
today. I can't tell you how long I've been waiting to check off that hanging of the mezuzah on the door over here.
Well, I'm thankful that I got to be the one to do it.
Yes, you are.
Oh,
I'm thankful. I wanted, like anything else, I wanted to be somebody that's close to home and a personal friend. I don't like this whole mercenary shit. When it comes to,
you have to pay some
when it comes
guy
to things
to
like
come in
that,
and give
I want
$100.
like somebody speaking at your funeral that was hired to do so that never met you. That kind of thing.
That happens all the time in our religion.
Yeah, and in mine too, or at least the religion of my people. Listen, got it all wrong.
Really?
Both my brother went to my brother's religion. My family has an arrangement with the Biore Funeral Home, down in Miami, and they got this same old Getchke priest with ears like Yoda that shows up, and he got everything about my brother wrong. He was talking about my uncle. My uncle was a psychologist, and he kept doing medical doctor analogies, this crazy old Getchke. So, I want the things in my life to be done by the people that I know. And
so who do you want to bury you? You want me to volunteer?
My funeral is going to be very elaborate. I'm not going to be buried. I'm going to be stuffed and mounted. Like a
not allowed.
No.
And Jewish Orthodox. Not allowed.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to. That was the original plan. I have a tattoo.
Not a problem.
No, not a problem. Did they change that?
Why is that? They changed that rule?
No, they didn't change the rule. The Bible says not allowed. The Torah says not allowed. But if you have it, what are we supposed to do?
Oh, if you already have it, I see. So
you want me to scrape it off?
can't get one. Could you? Just can't get one afterwards.
Well, I don't know about most of the Israelis that you see out there.
They're all tattooed up. Yeah, is that you're not supposed
to?
It happens. Well, the Japanese culture is supposed to be a no-no, but lately people are like, "Fuck that shit! I'm going to get a tattoo."
And that's the same thing in every culture. People just pick and choose.
Right, absolutely.
It's a pick and choose religion. 613 commandments. Let's just pick the ones we like.
Right, like
I like the left side of the 10 commandments, not the right side.
Right, I'm going to choose not to eat selfish, but to be a homosexual. That's how I'm going to go through that. They're right there in Leviticus. Both of those things.
Like I went out with this girl once ago, nice Jewish girl from Aventura.
Yes.
And she says, "Oh, cool, we'll go out with you again." But then she says, "I can't go out with you anymore because I want somebody who doesn't keep kosher and that eats shellfish." I was like, "What's going on? What's going on there?"
Really, that's a deal breaker?
Yeah, that's a deal breaker.
Wow.
And you're Jewish.
That's a little bit intolerant there. That's weird.
Crazy.
I mean, I've got deal breaker things also, but if I'm dating somebody and they don't if they're a vegan, because I know people who are vegans and it's just it's too much of a pain in the ass to be around you.
Repulsive.
We can't go to restaurants. We can't go anywhere, do anything. You're just like I hang out with ultra orthodox kosher Jews and we can go to restaurants. We can go places and do things, but you're like What do you do? So that's just a little bit of a cultural difference that makes things difficult.
Doesn't make sense.
But otherwise, if I meet somebody and say like I don't eat shrimp, and they're like, okay, there are people that have allergies.
Exactly.
I don't eat shrimp. Okay, big deal. What do I care? I do eat shrimp.
She liked fancy restaurants, and there obviously are none down here that are fancy enough. I mean, we don't eat steak. We eat nothing.
I guess
you eat nothing.
Nothing.
There's nothing. I mean, like bread and water.
Right.
That's all you can do. Unleavened bread, of course.
Right. Unleavened.
Yeah, that's all you can have. Right.
The same ones that used to bring
flour and water. Right.
Exactly. Or
lots of matzah.
Or hamantashen.
Lots of matzah. That's it again.
Hamantashen.
Passover's almost upon us.
Well, first we're gonna have the hamantashen.
Right.
I should probably bring you.
You should bring some hamantashen. By the way,
do you remember Neil's favorite filling of hamantashen?
Mun.
How does he remember this stuff?
This guy is brilliant.
And believe me, he got every time I brought it to him, he got sick. Remember? And then he blamed me the next day on the radio.
Because here's the thing, because he was Neil. The hamantashen controversy is he would get, and obviously there are two kinds, but the ones that he referred to as the real hamantashen are not the traditional hamantashen. And I'm sorry, there a panel assembled to discuss this issue. The ones that he liked, which are very good, and I forget where they came from, Philadelphia or something like that, or
a not kosher place.
Yeah, something. But they were bready. They were almost like turnovers, and they were all enclosed and very bready with the poppy sprinkles on the top. And they were delicious. There was a bit of a honey glaze. They were soft, warm, and very delicious. But I have been told by every other Jew on the planet that those are not the traditional Hamantaschen, which are the tri-corner fold hats where you can see the flute exposed in the shape of Haman's hat.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you were eating some kind of mun turnover or something. I don't know.
Yeah, mun turnover or apricot or whatever. They were delicious. I want to take anything away from them, but they're not traditional Hamantaschen. I'm sorry, but yeah. I would love for because I want to now that we're established here.
At least next month.
I want to, just start doing my show back on a regular basis and bringing some of the old characters.
You'll get the
Hamantaschen,
and then the following month we'll bring the matzah that I personally bake in
Wonderful.
Borough Park,
You're going to bring the butter too?
You personally bake it?
I personally have been baking for the last 45 years.
I make the best fried matzah out there.
No, this is I'm making the hand
matzah fry-off.
No, I'm not
talking
about
on
the
show.
You're
talking about
itself.
the actual matzah.
The one that costs, like $20 a pound.
I know. It's ridiculous.
And I'll bring you guys some.
I mean, you can buy matzah up in Baltimore for half the price you can buy it here. I'm
Understood.
thinking of taking a truckload down.
Well, I bring a truckload down from New York.
You smuggle it? Do they have matzah-smelling dogs at the state police?
It's trucked. We don't ship. We truck it. We actually truck it.
Smuggling.
You actually make it.
Smuggling matzah, ladies and gentlemen.
By the Rebbe.
We're going to have it. We're going to start doing
regularly
Jewy things on the show as we merge our cultures.
Do we want to do it once a month?
Anyway.
Once a week would probably be too much.
The whole Florida Reconquest has to do with a whole allegiance with the Jews here. We couldn't do it without them. Not just without the help, but the sanction of the Jews of Florida who are all in on it. They're part of the cabal, the cadre.
We definitely are.
We were going to keep Florida, the original Spanish name, keep Florida, but since the Floridians identify that with the old Florida, the crackers that are not going to be very happy about this, so the name is going to be Cuba Norte in Spanish or North Cuba.
Cuba Norte.
I like Cuba North better than North Cuba.
Well, that's how the proper, but we got to say it in a way that the Anglos can refer to it as they put up their feudal resistance. And
does your partner agree with this over here?
The crackers, I'm giving him the opportunity to be a part of the Reconquest and be on the right side of this issue.
And if he sees me as a rabbi part of it, that doesn't help.
I don't know. It's like
am I not legit?
Your options are to be a part of it.
Well, I was thinking that you might bring tefillin with you. If you were a Chabad rabbi,
he did that.
Well, if you go back into the archives,
right? And I think it's
Neil Rogers.
I think it's on Whammy in Miami. David strapped me up with tefillin, and I davened right there while Neil made fun of me. My arm was purple for a day and a half.
Only
a day and a half. It was my first time.
What about your forehead?
He didn't want to wrap me up too tight. You did the arm. I think you strapped my head up too. I had the box on my head.
Neil wore the tallis, but he would not put the tefillin on.
He knew the tefillin on.
He knew the bracha by himself. Amazing.
Sure. I'm taking classes. I'm going to ace this thing. Yep. And
I'll give you a test.
And then I'm going to take kung fu.
Well, we've got just a teacher for you.
I hope so.
And he's a sword master.
Did you load up another break? I'm just out of curiosity.
No, I haven't.
Okay, I know it's very exciting and distracting, but yeah.
Can you do that so I can?
Yeah, we'll do that while we talk. Where are your offices now?
My offices now are on Sterling Road.
That's the same place that I visited, like it's kind of next to the biker bar in the warehouse district.
No.
Okay.
No, way. I bought my own place.
Okay.
Right on Sterling
Is
Road.
it way
right
west?
Next to the library. No, a mile and a half east of 95, next to the library.
Really?
Yes.
As long east of 95.
Emerald Lake Office Park. Yes.
Oh, that's very nice.
3113 Sterling.
No, that's very close by. I'm glad you didn't move west.
No.
The only time I go west is to go skating with my daughter. So I go to Davie, the rink in Davie. That's the only time I want to go west of 441.
No, I'm equidistant between 441.
That's for Goyim out there.
Exactly. We try not to get out there.
No. That's very close by.
Right down the block from the synagogue.
I was afraid it would be a schlep. No, because I'm like the older I get, the less I want to schlep.
Exactly.
I'm 5 minutes from here. How do you like this, by the way? Did you look out the window?
My office actually used to be up the block.
I remember. I visited that. We have to put these things up on the window because the backlighting. We got the camera over here.
Exactly.
The backlighting really washes out.
I didn't realize it was live on the
whole
internet
thing.
Also.
We're live on the internet. We're streaming live video.
So it's not just audio.
Audio, video, and then we upload the video to YouTube.
Nicer. I mean, they say
no,
Rabbi,
that's okay. Look, I'm
wearing
flannel.
Yeah, but
I'm wearing my and because we were going to talk a lot of Cuban stuff. I wore my Kennedy assassination T-shirt. That scumbag traitor Kennedy.
But you're you.
And celebrating the Kennedy getting shot through the head for betraying the Cuban liberators.
I see it.
The Cuban people fought hard, and Kennedy fucking let them hang out in there and get killed, man.
Yeah,
Are you embarrassed about that stuff?
And then Castro had him assassinated.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was Jimmy Hoffa.
I heard it was Santos Traficante.
It was Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah.
It was a Hoffa disciple.
But a lot of people didn't like him, including the right wing Cubans who were trying to liberate Cuba from the commies. He betrayed them and let them lose.
Most Americans think he was a great president.
Mm-hmm.
Little do they realize.
Yeah.
His first love was really Marilyn Monroe.
Sure. Yeah, I knew that.
What was his second love?
Well, his beard, his pretend wife Jackie Onassis was really a black woman who passed as white. You knew that, right? You look it up. People you didn't know were black. Jackie Onassis is one of them, along with Betty Boop.
Barack Obama.
Oh, he's
maybe Michelle. Michelle.
He's half and half black, half Muslim.
Yeah.
I'd say
He's
99 Muslim and maybe one black.
Black Muslim. What?
No, 99% Muslim, one black. But
sure.
I'm just a little biased.
More and more Muslims at the roller rink these days.
Really?
Yeah.
Muslims at the roller
with their headgear
Muslim
and
at the
everything
roller
on?
rink with the headgear and everything on, and
get up.
I say assalamu alaikum, and they say assalamu salam, and then they say, "Are you a Muslim?" And I say no.
Thank God.
And I say
and
no.
they say which God?
And they go one time in a conversation they said, "Well, do you believe in God?" And I said, "Yes, I just don't believe in prophets."
Is that with an F or a PH?
Either. Well, here at SoFloRadio.com, we don't believe in prophets either. And that's why.
And you thought I was an accountant.
That's why Mark's here is to change all that. Thank you so much for coming in. You got something to play, and it's always great to see you. And I will see you regularly on Jewish holidays with the appropriate snacks.
That's what I'm all about, the appropriate snacks.
Well, Neil always said I'm a culinary Jew, and I'm like, well, that's a start.
Yeah. So much for being an atheist, huh?
Be a little bit more than that. Well, see, this is the thing that I think is it's either right or not right. You can be a Jewish atheist. You can be a Jewish agnostic.
Well, I think you were more the agnostic.
I know many. Well, I'm officially an agnostic, even though I have conversations with God frequently. But that doesn't change my agnosticism, because an agnostic is just someone who admits that they don't know what's going on. So after having several conversations with God, I can tell you I still don't know what's going on because God doesn't say. So, and because that's all part of it. It's like, look, I didn't give you life, and I don't owe you an explanation. This is what God would like people to know. If somebody gives you life and you say, well, then now explain it to me. It's like, I didn't promise you an explanation, asshole. If you want more than what I gave you, fuck off. That's from God. So I still don't know what's going on.
But
I
how
still
does
know
this
what
work into your conversion?
Huh?
I mean, you got to at least fake it with me and say you're going to give up your agnosticism.
Oh, well, I'll pretend to. Well, listen, if other people that I know can be Jewish and agnostic, then I can be too.
Yeah, but they're born Jews.
Yeah.
You're like coming in on the back end.
Right. Well, see, that's not fair. That's not fair. That sounds like racism to me. That sounds very
fake
prejudicial.
It to make it,
huh?
Maybe?
Fake it till you make it. I guess. I don't know. I'll get my certificate and then I'll convert. Is it possible? And of course it's possible, because I used to have religious beliefs once upon a time, and now they're different. So you can be Jewish and change your mind. Like Cat Stevens used to be.
Don't mention Cat Stevens.
Used to be a normal person,
and
then he became a Muslim and stopped playing music, which is one of the 101 reasons why I don't like the Muslims. They destroyed Cat Stevens. They took a talented man and made him into look at that. Like
Cat Stevens
didn't they take Kareem Abdul-Jabbar also?
A bearded Getchke. They destroyed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar also. How do you like that?
Lou Alcindor.
I don't know, but all you people that won't eat pork,
Yeah, but Lou Alcindor's not out there saying kill all the Jews.
Who isn't?
Lou Alcindor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Not all Muslims want all the Jews killed. See, here's the thing. It's nothing personal. I think that there are certain Muslims that want everyone that isn't a Muslim killed.
Exactly.
Jews included.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're equal opportunity racists.
They're the jihadists, right? Yeah. And by the way, there are Christians who believe that anyone who isn't a Christian should convert or die.
Exactly.
Everyone who's a Christian that didn't start out as a Jew also is a Christian because someone said convert or die. Exactly. My ancestors were told by the Romans, convert or die, and that's why they're Christians. Okay,
Exactly.
that's
No
why they
choice.
were Christians.
Kind of a no-choice religion.
Yeah, I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. That was the original. The Romans came to my
Exactly.
people, and then the original offer you can't refuse. Worship Jesus or we'll kill you. By the way, he's a God of love.
Right. right.
Speaking
He was
of,
also a very talented Jewish rabbi.
no, he was very talented. Right, Christianity, yet another Jewish money-making racket.
Right.
But unlike a preacher or a past preacher's not right. Unlike a man of the Catholic Church, rabbis are teachers, not under the onus of a pope.
It isn't dogmatic.
Right.
Yeah, which is
Correct.
very.
Yeah, there's no eternal boss up there
Correct.
telling us what to do, but we got to try to do the right thing.
Yes, of course.
And it gets embarrassing out there sometimes.
Which is great. I'm glad that there's a morality clause in there. You don't believe in killing people that worship a different God anymore.
Not lately.
Not lately, but once upon a time, we were all about that.
Me?
Not you, but Joshua, Moses, Samuel, all these people, Well, you read the books of Moses. They killed people that worshipped a different God. And that was why. And that's why they said they were doing it. But you've read that? I'll bring my Bible in. Oh, look, we have computers right here. Okay. All right. Absolutely. You can plead the fifth.
You're too smart for me.
Oh, sorry.
He's too smart for He's very, very intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
George Rodriguez, the Jew that he is.
Wait, what
very
is George going to be?
When you read the Bible, it becomes very obvious why the Catholic Church fought so long to keep it from being translated into a language that people actually understood,
Exactly.
because they knew that people would go, "Oh my God, did anybody read this shit? Look what's in here."
Exactly.
It's just like killing and killing and killing and killing and killing and killing.
I like Yanko.
Yeah.
Yaakov,
Where am I going to go?
What are we going to call George? We're going to change it.
Oh, I get a Jewish name.
Yaakov.
I'm sorry.
Yaakov or Yankel.
No, I had this.
Yosef?
It's got to be something funny, not Yosef. I had
Yankel.
it. It's got to be a funny. It's got to be.
You want a yud? You want
funny.
a y at the beginning?
I
for George?
something
J
that
be,
would be good. That would be good. Do I get two
Like
names?
me.
Do I get a first and
I have
last
two names.
name?
I'm Yisrael.
I want to
Like
have
Israel.
two names. I want to have. Does it have to be Hebrew or something, or can it be something cool like
Hebrew.
silver?
When we call you up to the Torah, we gotta. You're still going to be Rodriguez. That's going to be the funny part.
I want,
You can be like Yankel Beryl Rodriguez.
Okay, this is good. I'm writing this down.
Yanko Barrel.
Yankel Beryl Rodriguez.
What's barrel mean? What does it mean?
Beryl, I don't know.
Bruce,
Yeah.
I want a name that means something. That means something in Hebrew.
Yaakov
Jacob.
Moshe.
Yaakov is Jacob. Jacob, our forefather.
No, like for example, like Benjamin means child of joy. Something like that.
Okay.
That's so I want something that means something, like child of fire, or child of dirt. something. I'm gonna get. You know what? I'm gonna get a Hebrew name book. I got it. It's online. Do a search online. Hebrew names. I want something that sounds good. I actually had one locked and loaded for a while, and I can't think of what it is now. But it had a good.
We give you that name.
It had a good tempo to it.
We
it
give
had
you
a
the
good
name
sound.
at the chopping.
At the chopping. God, this is gonna
We
be a
say a
lot of
special
chopping, man.
Yeah.
And I got just the guy to
I
do
need
it.
some anesthesia and the
anesthesia.
clamps.
Some good pop, man.
I don't know if you got to.
You want a nurse, or
veins
do you want
in
just a
there.
mild healer by himself?
I need a surgeon. I need to be put under. I know it's not allowed, but I'm gonna chew an OxyContin. It's gonna hurt.
I want to see you cry afterwards.
I'll hold you.
Fair.
That sounds kind of weird, but
Yeah, no.
I'll be there to.
It's a lot of meat down there. A lot of cutting. It's gonna take more than one slice. It's gonna snip.
But all the girls will come.
I've seen like there are videos and like slides of the procedure for doing like
Old
adult
man?
circumcision,
Yeah.
and it's
Brutal.
you got to cut down and around and over the river and through the woods and
Gotta turn it
knit
into a
one,
mushroom,
curl
right.
two, and everything. And then then for the longest time I've got to think about like dead puppies, because God forbid that I should unfurl the flag and rip my stitches.
Is that my cue to leave?
Yeah, that's your cue to leave. Thank you so much for coming, and it's good to
so
see you again
welcome.
and bringing the the Tower of Babel. I don't even know. I don't have a clock. It's 2:17 on all Babel Radio, SoFloRadio.com.
Hi, this is Boca. You know the Green Lantern, he got his power from a ring. Well, every time I listen to Luis on the Powwow, I always try it with calamari.
Put a team of professional consultants behind your home or business computer with Key Information Solutions, providing solutions to your internet and computing needs while keeping you on the cutting edge of technology. Preventative maintenance and networking support, hardware and custom-built computers. Let Key Information Solutions be your personal tech staff for your home or office with affordable hourly, monthly, or annual rates to fit anyone's budget. Call Key Information Solutions now. 954-973-3374. That's 954-973-3374. Or visit keyinformation.com.
When you're ready to actually lose weight safely and steadily while being monitored by a physician, the Weight Loss Clinic of Dr. Kim Jacobson is there for you. The family medicine practice was established by her father in 1956 and continues as a medical practice that now specializes in weight reduction. Dr. Kim Jacobson joined the practice 20 years ago as both a family medicine practitioner and weight loss specialist. The Weight Loss Clinic utilizes a combination of appetite suppression medication and vitamins to produce great results, usually 3 to 4 pounds per week for most patients. Now you can change your lifestyle while still enjoying your own food, just less of it. They offer a choice of 2, 3, or 4-week plans. So whether you just need to lose a few pounds or a lot, the Weight Loss Clinic of Dr. Kim Jacobson can help you. They're located at 5454 Northeast 4th Avenue in Miami, just 2 blocks west of 54th Street and Biscayne Boulevard. Call them at 305-751-0091. They'll be happy to answer any and all of your questions. That's 305-751-0091. Get started on a beautiful new body today with Dr. Kim Jacobson and the Weight Loss Clinic.
Hi, this is Jeff Cohen of the Pizza Loft. The Pizza Loft has been making the best pizza in South Florida for over 300 years.
Wait a minute. Whoa.
What?
Just because you make the best pizza in town don't necessarily mean you can voice your own commercials.
Why not? Look, I just painted my nails for this.
You just get back in the kitchen and do what you know best, okay?
Well, if you think you can do a better job...
A dead man can do better at this, and I'm almost there. Now scram!
All right.
Now see here. You want the best pizza in town? Not to mention a full menu of mouth-watering Italian dishes at prices the whole family can afford? Then you ought to know by now. Pizza Loft is the place for great Italian dining. And the pizza... Mo knows. I stole my share. That's Pizza Loft, 3514 South University Drive in Davie. Or call 954-916-8880. SoFloRadio.com. We bring the chicks.
Millions have converted for fun and profit. Now you too can turn your pagan ways around at Earl Stritz's. We'll convert any goy for just $99.95. That's right. Listen to one of our successful graduates.
Boakem, Shalom, Malachi, Hashalom.
At Earl Stritz's, we'll convert anyone into a Jew.
Malakem, Hakadosh, Baruchu.
Translated means, sorry, I must have left my wallet at home.
Melech, Melache, Hamalachim, Hakadosh.
Translated means, stewardess, did you make sure to give me a kosher meal?
Melech, Mahalache, Hamalachim, Hakadosh, Baruch.
Translated, yes, Rabbi, the check is in the mail. Yes, you too can convert into a Jew for just $99.95 at Earl Stritz's. Act now and get a free yard-side candle for just $10. Earl Stritz's. We'll convert any goy for just $99.95 or more if we can.
Hamlachem. How do I make this really backwards for
I never vote Democrat. I'm a Sonder Jew. I prefer natty slaps on the back. I'm a Sonder Jew. Have heard all that liberal leftist compliment dread, but these lampshades I got look so festive. I ain't a scared. I'm certain that Goyim like me. At least I hope. Long as I agree, they won't fry me or turn me to soap like all those slimy Sonderyids, Pearl and Wolfowitz, and Melman too. Oh, I am a Sonderyid Jew. I got me a stick of halava. I'm a Sonder Jew, just for turning in my marmalade. my rabbi too. I get loaves of bread by the dozen for a lick and a schmear, just for sending some kites to the oven and a couple of queers. I love reading Ann Coulter's books. I'm a Sonder Jew. I'm a two-faced nefarious schnook. I'm a Sonder Jew. They won't shove me in the oven. I'm a good Republican, so why not ride on you? Since I am a Sonder Jew.
Sitting in the mall and watching all the Jews walk by. Watching all the Jews walking through the mall before they die. Look at them wait on the line for free bread muffins. One piece on the floor, then one starts a fight. So let's go sitting in the mall and go watching all the Jews, watching all the Jews, watching all the Jews walk by.
You have dialed the Jewish telephone sex line. Relax and get ready for the time of your life. Okay, I'm ready. Did you gargle and spritz everything? Oy vey, your feet are like ice. You know, this ceiling needs painting. Hey, schmuck, you're leaning on my hair. Oh, could you speed it up a little? Wheel of Fortune is on in 5 minutes. I said get off my hair, you nutnik. Oy. Thank you for calling Jewish Phone 6. Call again in, about 6 months.
Welcome back. 231, SoFloRadio.com. You might want to turn the monitor thing down. The monitor's on top. The knob on top on the speaker. We're training producers over here. On top. Oh, look at me. There. That's the monitor speaker. And then we can listen with our headphones. Because otherwise we get feedback. Oh, that was a really tasty onion bagel with whitefish. Thank you, David. Rabbi David. Now I'm going to try not to burp. So
you can't be Jewish without burping.
I guess. I don't know. Let me get my water over here.
It's all that onion.
So I should probably tell the train story. I had Jeff listening to the entire show. The people that have been listening to the show have been following the train soap opera, which has us at our wits' end down here in Hollywood, those of us who live. And I was talking to Jeff, the landlord. Kent Wallace introduced me to him. He was here visiting the studio the other day.
Then we went and had drinks with him.
We had drinks
We had some beers.
and clams.
Right.
And he bought me a drink because he liked my train tirade. I live about a block and a half, 2 blocks from the railroad tracks. He was telling me this morning he lives. He was at his daughter's house or his sister's or somebody like that, cousin, aunt,
daughter,
step cousin, and impact windows, hurricane windows, double plane impact windows, 1.5 miles away from the railroad tracks, and it's still loud, really loud, definitely loud inside. So, having had enough, and here's the news story that you wanted, Jeff. Having had enough, I decided I forget when it was. I want to say Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe Wednesday. I called I went online and started. I've already done a lot of research and I read a lot of articles, but I never called anybody. I couldn't find anything definitive to clue me in on why the train whistle started blowing in November. And I still don't know why. That I don't know, because Florida East Coast Railway, they're acting like they don't know anything. And judging by the language, the older you get, you can kind of decipher what people are saying and read between the lines. Judging by the language, the lady on the phone didn't want to say anything that might sound like an acknowledgement that the train whistle wasn't blowing all this time. Because according to her, and I'm getting ahead of myself, so I called Florida East Coast Railway, left a message with their legal department. Very nice message, just asking for information. And I said, already told Mark this. George Rodriguez, calling on behalf of SoFloRadio.com. It's an internet radio station I own, operate, and have a radio show on there. And we've been talking about the train whistle of late, and I'm trying to find out more about the train whistle and why it's blowing now, and it hasn't been blowing then, and what the hell. And especially in my research lately, my research led me to the website for the Broward County Metropolitan Planning Organization, or Broward MPO, as they're known. And they have a whole article about the quiet zones and a map showing that all of Broward County is a quiet zone.
Wow.
Yeah. I was going to print it up, but I don't have any printer ink in my apartment, and I'm broke. So I could print it up here, but it showed the corridor all the way, like every single crossing. And it was dated 2014. So I incorrectly concluded that this was something that was in act right now. So I called them. There was a contact person right there at the bottom of the map, a public information officer for the Broward MPO. And I couldn't find a public information officer for the Florida East Coast. And I went through the telephonic maze for sales, press this, for employment opportunity, press for legal. The closest thing that I could find that somebody that might want to talk to me was their legal department, so I left a message with them. Both Florida East Coast Railway and the Broward County Metropolitan Planning Organization called me back within minutes. How do you like that? In the state of Florida, ladies and gentlemen, call Ripley.
That's like, can you believe it or not?
When Florida reverts back to Hispanic control and becomes Cuba Norte, I'm going to keep those people in place. I really appreciate.
You will be the new president.
I got a part in it. See,
okay.
I'm not power hungry. See, we're going to talk about because we were having so much fun with the Jewish stuff today. We didn't get to have the kind of philosophical discussion that I hoped we would have about
the one that I prepared for and spent
ambition.
weeks.
Yeah, well, hang on to it because
I will.
because and it might not have come into play anyway, because what I wanted to have was a philosophical discussion, because by experience on talk shows, audiences are not very served with a reading contest. And they don't want you to say something that they'll then have to go and read up on later or read to verify. Talk shows, because it's a show, because it's show business, are better served with conceptual conversations. So like time travel.
Correct.
And things like that. Or they would rather you just tell them some things. But I wanted to have a discussion about morality and moral compasses and right and wrong and pragmatism and things like this in general terms. And then we can get into the specifics once we understand where each other are coming from. But meanwhile, back to the train thing, because Jeff is just hanging there. He's like, when the fuck are you going to talk about the train already? I've been listening since noon. I doubt it. He's probably already gone right now, unless he's Jewish. And then he's like all taking notes.
Yeah, I would hope
so. So they both called me back, and I got the same story from both of them. First of all, the people from the MPO, I got called back from the information officer and the guy that made the map.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd he get you?
Paul, the information officer said, "Hey, Paul, got a call here, got a message here from some guy talking about your map." And so
the map of 2014,
They both they were. It was a speakerphone thing, and they were both there. This guy, David, I think, and Paul. They sound like apostles, like the apostles. No, absolutely not.
Okay.
So they explained that the map was not yet in effect. That this was the proposed quiet zone when all of the crossings were brought up to the standards. And I got the same story from both parties. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you the fact and what and then there's, of course, there's a bullshit factor involved here. But we got to suck it up. Here's the story that I got from the train lady, Deborah from Florida East Coast Railway. Nice people, and I gotta keep telling, because defensive right away, very polite but very defensive. Like I'm having a problem. It's like, no, I don't like the train whistle, but I really like trains. I had electric trains. My favorite Jew hat, electric train. I already established that, and I had a little train set when I was a kid, and I like the train a block and a half away. Ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk. You feel the floor vibrating. You can see the ripples in your cup, and it doesn't wake you up at night. It's like fun. We love the train. I've been in this neighborhood 14 freaking years. Love the train, fine, but now it's and so anyway, she said that it was 10 years ago that the federal agency, there's a railroad equivalent of the FAA, the Federal Railroad Regulatory Commission or something, which is way older than the FAA. I mean, think of how old the railroads are. But there's a Federal Regulatory Commission that sets safety standards and policy for the trains and when they should blow their whistles, because, and you might imagine, and I can't deny this, although I find it very difficult to understand how someone can not see a fucking train coming. It ain't subtle, it ain't small, but there is a statistical connection between the blowing of whistles, the blowing of the horn, and the not blowing of the horn. that when they don't blow the horn, more people get hit. That happens to be a fact. And no matter how stupid I think that is, it does happen to be a fact.
And I would not doubt that.
Right. So, but she said, no, this policy change came into effect 10 years ago. If you're saying, and this is the part that's bullshit, I could tell that she was either not believing or at the very least not wanting to acknowledge that the train whistle had not been blowing. Like, I'm not going to admit that train whistle hasn't been blowing. Like, you're not going to get me on tape admitting that we haven't been blowing our whistle, because it's illegal for us to not be blowing our whistle all this time. Like, God forbid that anyone should find out that we haven't been blowing our whistle all this time. But they haven't been. That's a fact. The fact is they haven't been since November, until November, and now they are. But they're not going to admit that they haven't been. They're just going to say, she's like, well, maybe you didn't notice. And I'm like, I really hope that you believe me when I tell you that this is not a subtle difference, that the train whistle isn't something that I haven't been noticing and now I am. All right? My ears didn't suddenly improve, and the older I got. It's like, well, she just, okay, let's move past this. Okay? But she acknowledged what I heard from the Broward County MPO, and that is that now, and because of All Aboard America, which a lot of people thought was going to be a bad thing, they're adding passenger lines to this track.
Correct.
There, that track over there.
That track.
They're adding some passenger lines. There's going to be like 12 or so more trains per day on that track. Right. Blowing their whistles. Coming soon. What was Broward County's response to that? Fuck that noise. We're going to make Broward County, all of Broward County, a quiet zone. And I like it when people are like doing the right thing. It just restores my faith in humanity. The Broward County MPO is being helped both financially and logistically by All Aboard America to cover the costs of upgrading all of the railroad crossings so that all of Broward County can become a quiet zone.
Correct.
How do you like that?
Well, that sounds like doing the right thing.
That sounds like doing the right thing. And again, in Florida, people called me back. They gave me answers. They treated me politely, and they gave me good news that other people in Florida are doing the right thing, and all of Broward County, the completion, it will not happen all at once. The people at the MPO could not tell me what the schedule was per crossing. They weren't privy to the upgrade schedule. It wasn't at their fingertips.
So let me ask you this.
But
then.
the timeline for total completion of all of Broward County within the year. I can handle that.
Right. Have they closed the railroad crossing recently?
Closed like
shut it off for a weekend, which they've done in other areas?
I have seen the railroad crossings in my vicinity, not lately, but in the time that I've been in this neighborhood, I've seen their
They
I've
may have
seen
been one of the
construction.
first ones
Right.
to have had it done.
Right. And maybe the policy change will go into effect when all of them are done, like all at once. Like all of a sudden, hey, all you engineers, you're now entering Broward County. Shut the fun up.
Right.
Okay.
And won't that be a happy day for you?
Oh, it's going to be a machaya.
Yeah.
A mitzvah.
A mitzvah.
Yes,
Well,
I'm going to have a party. Yeah.
And you've got a great place to have a party.
Yeah, I could use some sprucing up, like maybe plant a spruce tree. I could. I'm sprucing up the place with spruce.
Well, we could have a get together where we can have everybody come out and spruce up the place.
Well,
and bring some beer and
we're gonna have a train theme party. I'm gonna get the lady that I saw with the train hat,
Uh-huh.
and maybe everybody could wear like an Abe Lincoln stovetop hat. That looks like a train.
Now you're mixing
genres. Well, we could have that steampunk party that Rick was talking about,
Right, which
his
is-
wedding party, because and we could have like a steam engine themed thing. It's a weird thing that we like trains, isn't it? You ever thought about that? Electric trains.
For my 40th birthday, which was a surprise party when I was
it was just a
married
couple
to
years
my
ago,
first
right?
wife,
Mhm.
a couple decades ago, maybe. I got my first train set.
Really?
I can remember. Yes, I loved it. Maybe it was the 35th, but I got a train set.
What's with us that we like trains? Isn't that a weird thing to train? I mean, it's a vehicle. I mean, like cars, you can see racing cars, and cars can be all sleek and cool with the red stripes. But we like chugga black smoke steam locomotives.
They are cool. To watch them go round and round and do so many things, that figure eight, whatever your track configuration might be.
You know, Tweetsie Railroad in North Carolina, the amusement park there where we used to have our Boy Scout jamborees when I was in Troop 101, Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Thank you very much. Tweetsie Railroad is an amusement park, and the central point of the amusement park is you get to ride the circuit. There's a circuit where they stop the train periodically and let you they recreate Indian battles and things like that. But they have 3 or 4 genuine old-timey steam engines that they take you around in.
There's a gentleman out off of Griffin Road that builds locomotives.
Wow.
And rebuilds locomotives.
Wait, where can I drive that around?
You can't.
Hey, Florida East Coast, can I drive my locomotive on your track?
But every once in a while, they bring him a new locomotive to refurbish.
How cool!
Yes.
You know, when I've been on the Tweetsie Railroad train many a times, and it's one of those experiences when like bungee jumping, that when you're on there a second time, you really start to question yourself, like, why am I here again? Here's the locomotives are wonderful to watch them roll by and listen to that sound and the chugga chugga and the woo woo and all of that. It's an amazing thing. And then you get on that car, and then all the coal smoke starts flying into your face. No,
it's almost worse than being on a train.
The wobble is fine, but the smoke from the smokestack blows into the car. And so coal smoke, including, my favorite part, the incompletely combusted embers that are still on fire, as they fly into your eyes. It's not just the smoke, but it's bits and pieces of hot coal particles flying into your eyes and up your nose. That makes it just an amazing, wonderful experience. And you get off the train and you smell like the inside of a wood stove.
Yep.
And your eyes are burning from all the smoke and the coal particles, including hot embers. Not just, am I going to get an eye blister? Can you get an eye blister?
I would imagine you could.
Well, I'm thinking I'm getting an eye blister. Maybe that's why I have floaters and detached carnies, all the rides I took on the Tweetsie Railroad train. And every time I'm on there, it's like, what the hell am I doing on here again? I mean, I've seen this show. I know what the train smells like. There's absolutely, because it does a circle around the park into different places, no matter which way the wind is blowing, at some point in the circuit, you're going to be downwind of that smokestack. So back to trains. So there you go, Jeff. That's the train thing. Within a year, according to the Broward MPO and Florida East Coast, the trains are going to be quiet. The train whistle is going to be quiet, within a year. And as far as the additional trains up and down the tracks, because I had to explain to this lady, it's like, lady, I'm really cool. I live right by the tracks, so I have to cross those tracks several times a day in the course of just my life, being a daily life, and picking my daughter up, dropping her off, coming here, work, crossing the tracks frequently, back and forth across the tracks, because they're right there. Downtown Hollywood is just like right on top of these tracks. So 14 more trains, 12 more trains a day, we're going to be stopped at the track. A lot in this neighborhood. You want to talk about, we used to complain a lot, like the bridge tender bit, about the 79th Street Bridge and being stuck behind the 79th Street Bridge. It doesn't take longer for the bridge to go up and down to let a boat go by than some of these long-ass freight trains that come up and down this track over here. The train coming by is as much of a delay as the bridge going up and backing traffic up all the way and causing a lot of train wreck. I don't care. That's fine, because we like trains. We like trains fine.
Not if you're stopped 24 hours a day to go across.
No.
With 12 more trains? 12 more passenger trains.
Passenger trains.
Forget the additional freight trains that are going to be added because of the change of the ports.
Right. That's a conversation that I've had with Montanans, the good people of Montana, on more than one occasion when they lament about the local economy of Libby, Montana. Okay, and the depressed economy thereof. 1 out of 5 people is unemployed in that town because the lumber mill is shut down. The mine created an environmental disaster in that town. It's a Superfund site, Libby, Montana, because of the asbestos found in the zonolite. So It's tourism, pretty much. Is the only income in that town, and they desperately want some kind of an industry to go in there. And my conversation with them is what you can't have it both ways. Why do you live here? And I know the answer to your question, but why do you live here in the middle of the unspoiled wilderness? You don't move to the middle of the unspoiled wilderness and then complain about a lack of economy. Where I live, in Florida, economy good, people bad. You can't have one without the other. If the economy is the result of many people, who do you think spends money on shit? Moose? To have a thriving economy, you have to have a large population. All right? And to have a thriving economy, you have to have businesses that bring money in from outsides. For example, ports, trade, international trade, import, export, a hub of activity. It needs to be a hub, bub. Right? What's the hubbub? What's all the hubbub about? It's about money. It's about making money. The port of Miami is a very busy port, and that's why Miami's making money, and they can't build shit fast enough down there. I was telling you, downtown Miami, they can't build shit fast enough, high enough to save their life down there. And because you just mentioned that the tunnel, they got the tunnel now, streamlining things over there. The tunnel is open. I haven't been on it yet, but the tunnel streamlining things. More
that
trains.
Tunnel's done already?
Yeah.
Wow.
More trains is the price of progress. We're victims of our own success. More trains is you getting your wish, all you people that wanted a bigger economy and a better economy. It's like transplanting Havana's economy to Miami. Miami's economy was such, and then when my people got their shit taken away and they transplanted all of the economy to Miami, that changed the landscape. And you're bitching about that, are you? All this more money in town. Where do you think it came from? The economic shift, all of that trade, all of that import-export that was going on in Havana since 1515, all of a sudden it's operating out of Miami now. You can't have one without the other. So yeah, more trains, all aboard Florida, passenger trains, increased freight trains. It's because there's more trade going on here in Florida, in Miami. Another reason we got to take it back. That's another thing. The Havanians, by the way, the Havanians didn't plan to evacuate Havana. The St. Augustinians didn't plan to have to evacuate St. Augustine, and then they were shipped out to Havana. And right when they get their shit going over there, the commies take it, and they got to evacuate again. So that's why the St. Augustinians are back in Miami, and it's not
Cuba
by the
Norte.
way, it's not an annexation. I just want you to understand that
Takeover.
It's a reclamation.
How would you improvement as well?
Well, we plan to improve it. These inbred crackers, they haven't done a lot in the rest of Florida. The only really kicking ass thriving economies are the ones where like in Miami.
You got Disney World.
Disney World
Universal.
is tourist land.
Yeah.
Tourist land. Yeah.
Well, how are the Cubans going to fare with tourist land?
Oh, Cuba was all a tourist island. Remember, again,
Yeah,
Hyman
true.
Roth, the hotels here, the shows and
I'm all for
Vegas,
more gambling.
The only reason that Vegas became what it was because Cuba took itself out of competition. That was the gambling destination. That was where all the glitz and glamour was. And when the commies shut that down, that's when everything moved over to Vegas.
So during the reclamation, does that also include Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico. You Jews and your sense of humor. That's so funny. By the way, that's part of America already, and y'all can keep it. You understand?
Yes.
That's a good question. That's American territory, and we're absolutely not going to try to reclaim Puerto Rico. That's a complete... These St. Augustinians.
I heard... What I actually heard is that when we finally take over Cuba, Puerto Rico becomes the capital of that great state.
Yeah, right. It's a funny thing. The St. Augustinians were not evacuated to San Juan. They were evacuated to Havana, and then the Havanians came here, and here we go, and the beat goes on. One of these, if you want to have fun, Google one day time lapse American map that shows the map of America from colonial days to present and how it has only ever been in a constant state of flux. The size of America, the borders, the shape, the geometry through the Civil Wars and the Mexican Wars, everything. The American the American boundaries and borders as we know them today have really not been that way for a very long time. And that's the way of the world. For example, in the Middle East, Israel keeps expanding its borders and has since the 1940s. You can watch the time-lapse map of that.
They've only expanded their borders during the '67 war. They haven't expanded their borders since. They may take on more residential construction.
Well, you can see, but the for example, the wall that I envy so much that I can't wait to build on the St. Mary's River is not being built on their own side of the border, and it's cutting off swaths.
Whoa, stop! What is their border? Although
the United Nations, because here's a catch-22. If the United Nations
the United Nations, I don't believe in them. They need to get their asses out of this country.
Well, they're the ones that declared Israel a country,
and they can take the Statue of Liberty with them and shove that back up the French people's ass.
Oh my! The French, but we owe so much to the French.
We owe nothing to the French.
Well, because here's the thing, because you were talking about Sweden and knowing your allegiance to America, because I agree with you, because I believe in America, like Bonacera in the Godfather. I believe in America, and what's right for all of us. If I came here and I said, I want $3 billion a year to help me with my Cuban situation. We're going to send $3 billion a year to Cuba to help Cuba deal with some, reclaiming something. Mexico, there's something ridiculous. I imagine that the Tea Party and a lot of other Americans would have a problem with the president cutting checks to the Cuban government for $3 billion a year. I imagine a lot of Americans would have a problem with that. Don't you?
Even the consideration of doing anything with Cuba, I truly believe the Americans in general will have a problem with it.
Sure, but we give Israel $3 billion a year and have for many years.
And by the way, if you look at some of your history, Israel is one of the few countries that ever pays back the United States.
But that's not a loan. That's not a loan. We're beyond the $1 trillion mark as far. That's a yearly gift, if you will. It's cash and military hardware and surplus, and it's been going on for many years. And one of the things, because it's funny, because I posted a thing about lobbies the other day.
But by the way, do you like your smartphone?
I do like my smartphone.
Thank Israel.
I do. Well, Israel has a lot, but here's the point of that. Israel and many other countries are responsible for a great many contributions to the world. It isn't, the world has countries in it, and every once in a while, a country like America or Israel or England or France will make a positive contribution that the world can enjoy. Like most of our animation is done in Korea, in South Korea, and a lot of wonderful things come from Japan and things like that. But as an American taxpayer, I want American dollars to stay in America.
I totally agree.
And I know that you do. And I know that you do. And I'm a fiscal conservative, and I have a problem with governments like the Chinese government, for example, that spends a great deal of money lobbying our government. It really bothers me that foreign countries have lobbying entities over here spending a great deal of money lobbying our government to do things that serve their interests. I believe the American government should consider the interests of the American people. And I don't know why foreign governments are allowed to stand before our Congress and pitch their whatever the fuck to the American people and get our American people and our congressmen and our senators to pass laws that give people like China most favored trade nation status so that they can then undercut our manufacturing and destroy our economy. I don't know why China was allowed to do that.
Nor do I, because China should not be given any kind of positive sanction because they do nothing.
They do nothing for us. And how about this for a non-selfish reason? You don't need our help, China. China doesn't need my help. Chinese lobbyists have no business standing in front of my government asking my government to do things on their behalf. No business whatsoever. The Chinese government has no business putting money into the pockets of my politicians. I don't agree with that. But China doesn't spend as much on lobbying as Israel does in America. By the same token, I want to be friendly with all of the nations on earth, and I want America to adopt a policy that is very, very simple, but mutually beneficial to America and everyone. I think that we should be allies with as many countries as we can be allies with, especially Israel, because I mean, are you kidding me? Here is a collection. The most Nobel Prizes, if you want to have the Ethnic Achievement Awards, the most Nobel Prizes per capita belong to the Jews. Okay? Sounds like achievers to me. All right? So if I'm going to point to a group of people on the planet that don't need my help, if I'm going to make a list of people on the planet that don't need help from me, I'm going to start Jews. Don't need help from me because
Jews or Israel, there's a difference.
Okay, yes there is, because, and I have solutions to everything when I talk about it because there is a difference. Because man, there are lots of different kinds of Jews, as we discussed earlier on the show. The Ashkenazi and the Sephardic, and and there's Orthodox, Unorthodox, and Reformed, and you can have agnostic Jews. And I told you I met that Israeli girl, granddaughter of Holocaust survivor. Her grandfather was a Holocaust survivor with a tattoo, and she's fluent in Hebrew, and she was born there and educated there and raised there, and she's a left-wing peacenik hippie who blocks bulldozers wearing an orange vest, and who told me things about what's going on in Israel that I had never heard before, except I heard little snippets of things like on 60 Minutes and in Time Magazine and in National Geographic. That's when I started to get just like a little bit of a whiff of the other side of the story. But and she filled in all the blanks, and very militant, the shows that I did with her. So I know that there are a lot of different kinds of Jews, and there's more, and there's more than one kind of Israeli. Also, there's a right wing and there's a left wing, and there's a conflict going on internally in Israel about what to do and what's best for Israel. And I believe that's what's best for any nation, name the nation, is peace. Because I used to spend a lot of time during the years that I used to play computer games, and I burned one for you. I just can't get it to work on my computer. I'm gonna keep trying. It's a classic game called Sid Meier's Civilization. Sid Meier, he's a Jewish guy, and he became very famous and very wealthy, creating what came to be known as resource management scenario games. Different flavors, but the same concept, where you are in charge of, say, a nation, and you make policy decisions that shape that nation. And your policy decisions affect the gameplay, and the form of government that you choose, for the economy, whether you should dedicate your industry towards building your infrastructure, weapons of war, etc., and so on. And all these decisions have an impact on the morale of the people, the growth of your economy, etc., and so on. And you can play from novice to very advanced, where at the advanced level, all of the other nation competitors are given more production rates than you are, and so you have to be very shrewd and very clever, and you learn a lot by playing these simulations. And one of the things that I learned from my study of history and from my playing of simulations, that the best thing for a nation is to be at peace. The Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, which is the Bible of Taoism, and The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which is 2/3 of it. The first third of it is trying to talk you out of engaging in war, because it's a warning. It's like, you're about to embark. Before you engage in war, you should you should know that this is going to be a very costly enterprise in terms of material, wealth and material, in terms of lives and the morale of your people. So this should only be a last resort, and that goes into all of the things that you can do instead of war in order to accomplish your goals. And then the second third of it is, okay, so you're going to go to war. Well, then this is what you're going to have to prepare. Here are the preparations that you need to take into place, because you're going to be experiencing the following problems, so prepare for these shortages and this and that and supply interruptions and all of that. Prepare for that. Now that you've done that, have we still not talked you out of going to war? Okay, now here's what you have to do, and then it gets ugly. And then they go into all of the different things that you can do to win the war. And that's when you start getting, this is the goods, this is the meat. So even ancient warlords who wrote books on how to conduct war were anti-war, okay? That is the worst thing that you can do for your own country, is to be at war and to be involved in a conflict. That is the worst thing for your own people and your own country, is to be at war and to be in a conflict. So it is the best policy for any nation to be at peace and to trade with its partners and its neighbors, rather to be fighting with its partners and its neighbors. So the policies that I choose as plan A before I start beating the drums of war, I like to explore the drums of peace. Let's discuss how possibly we can achieve peace, and let's not. I mean, we can, if we want to, quibble over how we got here, but if all we're going to do is react to what the guy did previously, there will never be an end. There will never be an end. Okay? If you're going to commit an act of violence and say that your act of violence is a response to an act of violence, and the person that you're responding to, well, my act of violence was a response to an act of violence. And the person says, well, yeah, but that act of violence was my act of violence. That it was a response to, and you keep going backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards until the very beginning. Until the very beginning. Is it about that? Is it about who started it? Is that the name of the game? Because in the conflict between my people and the indigenous peoples of Florida with brown skin, going full circle to the beginning, when my people met the indigenous peoples of Florida, a conflict occurred. Okay? Who started it?
Your people.
Yes, they did.
Of course.
It crossed an ocean. What's that? Is it time for us to go already?
It's time for us to go.
2:58. I don't have any out music ready, although I can play some. I can play some out music.
So while you're getting the out music, I think the one thing that really it all has to come down to is we have to learn how to compromise. Compromise in government, compromise in social attitudes. It's all about compromise.
And I believe, because we're going to continue this conversation on a philosophical level, I believe that that what we're going to do, you and I, that all that we disagree about are methods, really. True. But the goals are the same. And that's not just you and I, but that's all of the people on the planet, with the exception of these crazy people that are never satisfied, no matter what they have. Okay, oligarchs. I'm going to call them oligarchs. Okay. The royalty class. We keep having to fight them over and over again. We who work keep having to fight those who don't over and over again in history until we learn to stop that cycle. But how we accomplish that, we're going to differ on. What a wonderful Jewish day. We're over. We're still recording the show because we can do that. We can record the show on infinitum for all I care. Do you have the ID ready? Because you're going to have to fire off the ID.
Give me a second. We'll get the ID ready.
We're not. It's 3 o'clock on SoFloRadio.com.